This year, a new chapter begins. Peter Auto redefines the classic. A new name, a new season, for a new story. Season starts now.
No idea. So this is chassis 4. So this exact car never actually raced. So this was their test chassis. But I think Jamie Campbell-Walton might drive it.
Great, great, great. Just like the other one, the DBA. Thank you very much, Alfie. Have a good race. Et François, mon cadreur, s'il peut me suivre, effectivement, on va aller sur ce grid walk trouver Olivier Galland, qui est également avec cette panos juste extraordinaire sur cette grille de départ. Regardez cet engin qui a marqué l'histoire de l'endurance, forcément. Alors, on va s'immiscer dans la discussion d'Olivier. On est en direct, Olivier. Olivier Galland, bah, voilà, première ligne ici pour cette épreuve de l'Endurance Racing Legends avec cette monstrueuse panos. Ça va?
Ouais. Ça va bien. Jusqu'ici, tout va bien.
Voiture, ça se pilote comment? Quand on voit la Zytek juste à côté de vous, on se dit qu'on est quand même avec deux mondes différents là.
Ouais, très différents. Bah, déjà, c'était une voiture qui était assez particulière à l'époque. La Zytek est plus moderne. J'ai un moteur bien plus gros, donc je devrais avoir un avantage en ligne droite. Et sa voiture est plus légère, donc elle devrait être plus agile, surtout dans le deuxième secteur. Mais on verra. Ce qui est bien, c'est qu'avec une voiture rapide, peut-être qu'en qualif c'est moins rapide, mais c'est bien pour la course parce que ça me donne une opportunité de le passer dans la ligne droite. Donc, si j'arrive à passer, peut-être que je peux le garder derrière. S'il reste devant, ce sera compliqué.
Conditions absolument parfaites, Olivier, ici sous le soleil, ça vous arrange?
Ça, je sais pas. En tout cas, c'est plus sympa. Pour le week-end, on a amené des chapeaux et des lunettes de soleil. D'habitude, c'est parapluie, donc c'est quand même magnifique avec ce temps. Ouais.
There will be a great battle between this Zytek and this Panos during this first race of the weekend for the Endurance Racing Legends.
Vincent, thank you very much. And the prize for the best hat of the day definitely goes to Olivier Galland. For someone who lives in the Middle East, he obviously knows to keep the sun off his head. But yeah, it's going to be a real scrap. As he pointed out, more grunt from his Panos, but the smaller, lighter, well, probably equal dimension, but lighter, more streamlined Zytek alongside will have its advantages elsewhere. But Olivier is a very, very quick driver in ancient and modern. Tucked in behind, John, car number 25, Mike Newton, still with his MG EX264 from 21 years ago. It's never been out of his hands, still looks as fresh as when it was new.
And still being run by fabulous Phil Barker, ex of Ray Mallock Limited. And Phil used to have the office next door to me. And if ever I wasn't sure about anything, which was quite a lot, to be brutally frank, I'd pop next door for a cup of coffee and a chat with Phil. Phil has had experience all the way up to Formula One, really found a good spot for himself at RML, running a number of different cars and programs, and actually all the way up to the ASCAR. Won the championship for Ray Mallock Limited with the ASCAR when that came over to the UK and ran at Rockingham Motor Speedway, which was just up the road. One of Britain's foremost teams of the time. Privateer.
And have gone from engineering excellence to excellence ever since. And by the way, that car won its class, the P2 class, in 2005 and 2006 at Le Mans.
Should have won in 2007 as well, actually. But amazingly, Andy Wallace, who had been drafted in to bolster the team, and he was the change, he made the mistake. And that was what cost them the 3 years running.
That was one of the jaw-dropping moments. You don't associate the pair. I mean, Tommy Erdos and Warren Hughes the first year, and then Hughesy was replaced by Wallace the second year. But anyhow, it looks as though we're going towards an Emil Breitmeyer interview, but down with the DBA that's due to be starting. So, Vincent is all set to interview about the DB03S. Vincent.
with Emil Breitmeyer here at the start of this race with this DBA 03S. We'll do the interview in French avec Emil Breitmeyer. Alors d'abord, je tiens quand même à préciser que c'est notre tout frais vainqueur du Tour Auto qu'on a à côté de cette DBA. Bon, Emile, entre la Ford GT40 du Tour Auto et cette DBA 03S, il y a comme qui dira un petit monde de différence.
Oui, clairement, ça n'a rien à voir. Et là, on est sur une voiture qui est vraiment performante ici. Et j'ai pas beaucoup d'expérience avec. Aux qualifications, c'est la première fois que je roulais avec. Donc, je suis déjà assez content de ma position sur la grille. Mais là, en course, ça va être une autre histoire. On a moins le temps, donc il va falloir attaquer de suite. Donc, on va voir ce que ça donne. Mais c'est une voiture vraiment phénoménale, incroyable, légère. À rouler, c'est juste dingue. Donc, très content d'être ici avec cette voiture. Et on va essayer de faire une belle course. On va voir ce que ça donne.
Alors la Zytek a un nom différent, mais c'est assez similaire à votre voiture. Hein. Celle-là, une 04S, DBA 03S, c'est en gros les mêmes voitures. Alfie Bricks, ça constitue une petite donnée pour vous, une donnée tampon. On regarde un peu les chronos qu'il fait pour voir ce à quoi on peut aboutir.
Oui, sûrement, mais après, moi, c'est vraiment là, les premières courses. Donc déjà, le but, c'est de bien finir et de faire tous les tours. Et après, oui, après les voitures sont un peu différentes, il faudra qu'on regarde, mais je pense que déjà globalement, garder ma position, ce serait déjà sympa et réussir à faire toute la course bien comme il faut. Mais c'est sûr que ces voitures-là ont un potentiel de dingue et on a déjà l'impression de rouler très très vite, mais ça peut aller très vite.
Merci Emile. Emil Breitmeyer with this DBA. It will be his first race with the DBA. We know that in Barcelona there were some technical problems. He wasn't at the start of the race. He will have a lack of experience with this car, of course, but he hoped to be not so far away from the Zytek, same cars, of course.
Vincent, thank you very much indeed. And I love the description about quick and then quick. And that's what he means, stepping up to a prototype. And just last week, as Vincent intimated at the start of the interview, he won the Tour Auto, that fabulous event around France, John, where you go from circuit to circuit. And he was in a Ford GT40. But Emil Breitmeyer, winner. I mean, his trophy cabinet is going to have to be extendable on an enormous scale because certainly Bright Racing prepares some astonishing cars. But he's in that lucky position to be able to shift from machine to machine, from decade to decade. Some people try it, and not everybody can have a handle on the really different machinery they get their hands on as they move through. But Emil, such a bright star of the Le Mans series, the Le Mans Classic series, and again, another new experience, but the fact he qualified third shows he's very much got a handle on that DBA. The top three cars are all in the LMP1 class, so you would expect them to be at the front of the grid. There's another one in class, but that's down in 13th, Xavier Micheron's Courage. But then you get the LMP2. We've seen Mike Newton, he's heading that class. But then, fifth on the grid, we've got the fastest of the GT1 qualifiers. So those are the cars with roofs. It's the Maserati MC12. Joe Macari, he's already had one race today, but it was very short, so we'd be fairly sure he's going to try and a tone. What else is on the grid? We've got the Lotus Elise down there. That ran in the GT1 class, 1997.
That's an interesting car, isn't it? Because it never really... That's an interesting car, isn't it? Because that never really, I felt, got the backing it deserved. It was the Hesemans team, of course, that ran it. There was a... How can I describe it?
I'll have a tilt. There was never sufficient money going. I think a lot of people wanted to be the works team for Lotus, but Correct. Lotus didn't really have the money, and they weren't the only ones that tried. That was racing in 1997. I remember seeing that on the Helsinki street circuit, which was all walls. Yeah. Bear in mind, they had a Formula 3000 race as well. But anyhow, so it's a car I'm sure we're going to discover some history about. The Lotus Elise GT1 from 1997. Bright yellow. And Vincent is going to have a little word with the team manager who's running the Elise. Let's hope it's going very well.
On the start grid with this Lotus Elise GT1 car number 43, but these guys interest me, particularly Mr. Twan Hesemans, former winner of the 24 Hours of Spa on the big circuit of Spa-Francorchamps, the old circuit. Twan, when you see all this historic meeting, what are you thinking about?
Yeah, it's fantastic to look. Of course, it's now a completely different track, which is a lot safer. By the time in 1973, when we won, oh my God, goodness, you're driving through the villages, the trees and everything. Very dangerous. Now it's very nice.
Very dangerous, but you did it at the time. It was the only way of driving, of racing.
Yes, it was the only way of driving. Actually, during the night, somebody crashed very heavily. And they just come with the ziekenwagen, how you call it, the ambulance, in the middle of the street. One guy waves the drapeau, a flag, and then you know, you have to drive slowly around it. It was crazy, crazy.
Crazy, of course. Let's speak about this Lotus, Tuan. What are the chances of this car for winning the race here today?
Overall, we can't win. The class he can win, but yeah, he was naughty yesterday, overtaking by yellow, so they put him 4 places back. And normally the car can be on the podium.
We'll see that this Lotus, it is GT1 with Loris and Liam Hezemans, part of the Hezemans family.
This car was driven by Jan Lammers and Mike Hezemans on the 24 Hours of Le Mans in 1997.
Exactly, Le Mans in 1997 with Mike Hezemans, his son.
Thank you. Always great to hear from Toyne, the patriarch, now the 3rd generation beneath him. Toyne was a superstar of the 70s, and certainly a lot of people who raced against him in period on occasion went, he was quick. You know, he could have gone other places. He was, you know, an absolute linchpin of Dutch racing too. But great to see the Lotus out, and it's great to see cars that, you know, one of the roles of historic racing, John, is to find cars you didn't expect ever to see again, and to find them performing as well, even if Loris, that's 3rd generation Hezemans, was a naughty boy, as his grandfather described.
I like that. Making no excuses, I noticed either.
Well, if you've been around the block enough times, they don't wash excuses, do they?
Indeed not. Yeah, interesting to see that bright yellow car back on the grid. Sits right behind that Chamberlain Synergy car. Another fairly luminous livery for the Chamberlain Synergy machine. The grandstand's steadily filling up this Saturday, and long afternoon into the evening to come, and we have it all live for you. Then we'll kick it off again tomorrow morning, just before or just at 9 o'clock local time, running through to late afternoon. If you're within a decent drive of Spa, I would thoroughly recommend that you jump on or in your transport and get yourself down here, because the weather forecast for tomorrow is absolutely quality. And we'll do it all again with everything you'll see today. And in fact, there's in fact 3 classes, I think, that we don't see today that we only see tomorrow, which a couple of which are going to be absolute crackers. Just coming down through the grid and seeing the cars that I remember in period, the dark green of the Aston Martin DBS, and that car, or DBR 9S should I say, sitting in front of some of the open-topped prototypes. I know why we don't have open-top prototypes anymore, but I did like the elegance of those cars. Let's head back down to the pit lane, as Vincent has found another interview with the number 8 car.
On the start grid with this Aston Martin Vantage number 008, and we found the Belgian driver, so we'll make the interview in French, of course. Nico Verdonck, même s'il est néerlandophone. Nico Verdonck, Aston Martin, superbe Aston Martin dans ce plateau Endurance Racing Legends 1. Comment ça se passe jusqu'à présent?
Honnêtement, c'est magnifique d'être là sur la grille avec Gregor, grâce à lui qui m'a demandé de lui soutenir. Mais c'est une voiture magnifique. Jusqu'à hier matin, je n'avais pas encore eu l'occasion de rouler la voiture, mais je connais ce type de voiture de l'époque avec la GT1, quand j'ai roulé en 2011 sur la Corvette et la MC12. Mais ici, c'est une des voitures, la crème, alors c'est magnifique.
Magnifique. On exploite ça comment, Nico? On roule quoi à 80, 90%, 95% du potentiel de la voiture?
Tout d'abord, c'est pas ici que je vais avoir un nouveau contrat. C'est pas comme dans le passé, mais même tu veux t'amuser. Mais pour t'amuser, il faut quand même utiliser ces voitures parce qu'il y a un minimum de performance qu'il faut avoir pour que ça fonctionne bien. Mais c'est sûr que on roule pas au dernier dixième. Mais je me suis quand même très bien éclaté hier en qualif. Quand on tourne avec cette voiture de 17, on sait que ça avance bien.
Alors on sait que la victoire en GT, ça va probablement se jouer entre cette Lotus Elise du clan Hezemans et votre Aston Martin. Grosse bagarre là.
Ouais, on fera tout pour avancer. Ouais.
Nico Verdonck, driver of this Aston Martin. He wants to win. There will be a fierce battle with the Lotus in the GT1 category.
Thank you very much, Vincent. Yeah, lots of praise from Nico Verdonck there. You know, for a lot of drivers, they're finally given a chance in the car. They would have imagined when they were growing up, you know, what the performance is like. The reality, John, is always something that takes them by surprise, for better or for worse. But you are finally experiencing something that you've only ever imagined before. But Nico will not be starting. He's wafting the door to try and get a bit of air onto Gregor Fiskin, a Scottish racer who will be kicking off that race in the Aston.
I remember being given a passenger ride in the Le Mans winning car, which would have been in 2005, maybe 2004. We were on a promotional tour in the UAE. The Intercontinental Hotel Group were one of the big sponsors of Aston Martin, and we were taking the Le Mans winning car around, and sitting in the passenger seat of that car, it wasn't how fast it went, it was how quickly it stopped that was really amazing. I'd ridden motorbikes, I'd driven some pretty neat cars, and motorbikes obviously, but it was just how late. It was Ricard Rydell, I think, who was driving me around, and we were on a shortish version of the Dubai circuit. My goodness me, it was absolutely fantastic. Right, the 996, Marcus Paltala and Chris Harris's car.
Back on the start grid with this car from the old good times, and the guy at the wheel, Mr. Marcus Paltala, this Finnish driver, and the guy here, Christian Schumacher, is the former responsible of PSI, and not always responsible for PSI, the guy who tuned this Porsche 996 biturbo. Christian, it's a particular Porsche, this.
Yeah, it's a biturbo one, so this means in 2000 I take the decision to go for biturbo car just to get a chance to fight against the Vipers and the Maseratis and whatever was at this moment on the grid. Porsche, as everybody knows, always only interested in atmospheric engines. So we took it over, made by ourselves in-house, let's say, with the FIA in Geneva, the whole homologation part of the car, and afterwards built up to 2006, 11 cars in total.
What was the result for this car? You were satisfied with the performances of the car?
It is a biturbo engine which is quite emergent about restrictors. So I remember in 2001, the first season, that even Peter Barth was, Jürgen Barth was intervening that this car should receive bigger air restrictors to get any kind of chance against the V10s of America. This is somewhere, let's say, a lack of power that we got since the beginning, but at the end, if I remember right, the car was able to fight for 5th, 6th places in the FIA, which is, I would say, for a private team, something nice.
Thank you very much, Christian Schumacher. So 20 years later, the car is there on the start grid in Spa. Wonderful.
Great to see it back. Marcus Paltala behind the wheel. Not sure if Chris Harris is here this weekend, actually. His name's not on the car. It was on the original entry list.
It was still on yesterday's entry list, but I think the same happened. Well, certainly in the opening round in Barcelona, his name was down. He wasn't. I just want to say, we talk always about how friendly the historic racing scene is, but may I take my hat off, or other things? No, just my hat. Motor Historics. A knock on the studio door. What now? Are we about to be told off? But no, a tray with scones, with cream and strawberries, some sandwiches wrapped up.
It's 4:45. It's high tea, Mr. Jones.
For me, that was only the approach to high tea. High tea came at about 6. 4 o'clock was tea time, but we'll get some tea later. But anyhow, you know, it's a lovely nature, and it's great to see the people enjoying the grid walk down there ahead of the endurance racing legends. A chance to get up close to the car. And I love the fact that so many of the people who were involved with those teams in period, like Toyn Hazeman's looking over his son Mike's Lotus project, are still here, still able to bring the stories. And so many stories never really get into public distribution and circulation, just because often there are little secrets in the paddock. But it's really nice decades on when those tales can come out, not just to sort of join the dots for us after all these years, but for people who are looking at these for the first time to sort of understand not the chicanery, just the way that people were trying to find that extra bit of performance and to go to the front. And that moment where the fans on the grid walk are now starting to pull off the grid, and we'll get that wonderful shot. I always love this moment, you know, particularly things like Spa 24 Hours, Nürburgring 24 Hours, when you finally get the cars on their own. You get a chance to see them.
They almost appear, don't they?
They do.
It's almost like an oasis appearing out of the heat haze of a desert scene. I always think when we go to Petit Le Mans at the end of the American Le Mans series that season, the IMSA WeatherTech Sports Car Championship as it is now, where there's about, it seems there's 25,000 people on the grid, and we have this, we're looking down on it, and we have this philosophical discussion between ourselves in the booth. If we can't see the cars and the track, does it actually still exist? And then the whistles are blown and everybody in an orderly fashion moves off, which in itself is incredible to watch. And then you see the competitors, then you see the gladiators, if you will, and it really sets the scene. And this view from down at La Source backwards to the start line has, I mean, even without Circuit du Spa-Francorchamps over the top, you would not have to tell very many people where that was.
No, exactly so. But also another moment you get right at the start of an event is when you finally get to see the cars and you see suddenly someone who's got a problem with one of the cars. That's the start of a story. This is a 40-minute race. Driver changes. About half a dozen of the cars in this 20-plus car grid. I think we're getting 19 cars on the grid. A couple haven't quite made it through. We'll have a secondary driver. So the secondary drivers, we've heard from one of them. That's Nico Verdonk, who's sharing Gregor Fiskin's Aston Martin DBR9. Mark Rostan, who will be sharing a Pilbeam with Pierre Bruneau. Olivier Pla was a late addition, tip-top French sports car racer. He's sharing with Romain Beltès in a LMP2 Courage. Loris Hazeman, we've mentioned Mike, so Mike is the father, Loris the son. Jean-François Besson is sharing with Guillaume Guignard. That's in the little black Lindsay we saw just coming round as they were assembling on the grid. Pierre Bruneau will... What happens with Pierre Bruneau and Mark Rostan? One starts one Pilbeam, and the other one starts the other one. So there's a little bit of, let's say, lack of efficiency potentially in those pit driver changes, but actually there's just about generous enough time for you to come in if you're nose to tail for both to be, you know, not be hampered.
I did that once in a with a driver in a race. Actually, no, that got me the drive in the race because I was at Snetterton talking about a classic race, and the driver that I was saying, oh, that's going to mess up their pit stops, because he was jumping out of one car into the other and he got stuck on the wrong side of the old Snetterton and had to come back through the cornfield, basically. And he gave me a bit of a hard time, and next time out, I was sharing an RS31 Capri with him. So he basically said, can you drive as quick as you can talk? I said, I'll give it a go. Oh, what a shame you haven't got a race licence. I said, Mike, I've got a race licence. Oh.
Yes, you have to be careful what you offer, when, and to whom. So, as people leave the grid, you know, it's not often at Spa-Francorchamps you need umbrellas. Today they are parasols. Now, watch out for one of the cars from the very back of the grid. It's bright green and it's black, and it's a little LMP2 Lola MG, and we're expecting that to come charging forwards in the hands of Nel Stark. He's tucked in behind the bright, multicoloured Coroiser Marcos Mantara, and bringing up the rear is that Lindsay in 18th position, Georges Gagnard. Unless just outside the right-hand side of our shot, we've got Romain Beltès. We may have been reduced to 18. The Courage I cannot see as yet. But there is our grid. Open-top cars and closed-top GT1 runners. And we've heard from quite a few of the runners and riders down there on the grid. But basically it boils down to Alfie Briggs in the white and blue Flash, Zytek on pole position, and Olivier Gallon with that black-nosed front-engine Panos. They're going around on their formation lap.
Problem for, I think that's the Panos, the Marcos, that hasn't got fire in the engine.
Something with a very large rear wing that they're about to push on, but hopefully that at least can get started, albeit from the very back.
Oh no, it's a Porsche. It's a Porsche.
Oh, it's the Marcus Palsler car. I thought it was the one behind looking at that rear wing. Yes. So you're going to get both of those turbos singing, and I'm not entirely sure the Lindsay got underway either.
So this is the Pierre Martinet sponsored car.
Now, oh good, the Lindsay has got away, but unfortunately you mentioned earlier about climbing up to Les Combes. It is actually even a gentle climb up the start-finish straight to La Source, so it might need more than two people, because that 996 bi-turbo won't be as light as a feather, so it needs a little bit more of a push. Now look at the second place car came up towards us, the front engine Panos, driver position offset as well, so it's a very strange car to see when you see it from the front end.
I remember talking to Jan Magnussen and David Brabham actually when those cars were racing. It is a front engine car, but the engine, which is an American V8, number of people had their hands on them, but originally it was Jack Roush's organisation who tuned it based on a Ford block, and that engine was pushed so far back in the car that ultimately the driver was pretty much, Bruce, sitting over the top of the rear axle. Now that's efficient, in terms of getting a front engine car balanced to a near 50-50 weight ratio, but talking to all of the drivers, Johnny O'Connell drove that car as well, it was the most bizarre feeling for them because they were so far back in the car that the polar moments of inertia when the car was sliding around, they were feeling in a completely different way to any other car that they'd ever driven because they were sitting on that back axle.
They were following it. They should be on top of it. Yeah,
correct.
No, really, really weird. So, feast your eyes. If you like Maserati MC12s, we've got a trio of them. There's the third in the Vitaphone livery, the Aston Martin of Gregor Fiskin, and then a host of others tucked in behind. A couple of Courages, a couple of Pilbeams, that bright Marcos Mantaro that is, orange, green, blue, and yellow. Correza is the number plate. I'm sure you'd have picked out that personalised
EU
vanity plate, but it looks as though, let's see, it does appear we haven't got Roman Beltest, unfortunately. The number 8 Courage, the C65, that doesn't appear to be a starter. So one down we are.
Yeah, but we have got a car of that ilk, haven't we? We've got the number 31 car, the Courage. Yes, that is in there.
Yeah, it does mean we've lost Olivier Pla, who was slated to be driving that. And Olivier, with all his successes at Le Mans, and in fact, many, many years of competing at Le Mans, not getting to start, unfortunately, for the Endurance Racing Legends 1, as we've already seen a race for the Endurance Racing Legends 2. That's for the GT2 runners.
The Martinet car, the Pierre Martinet car is running, the 996. It's coming back up through the field. Now, how far will it be able to get back up, and can it make its way back with Marcus Paltala into the inside of row 6? I think he's just about done that.
He's only a couple of places back when they get to Blanchimont, so he'll surely manage. But the front row, it's Alfie Briggs in the white and blue Zytek alongside Olivier Gallon in the Panos LMP1 Roadster, and who can hang with them? Emil Breitmeyer, very, very quick, doesn't know the DBA, that's the blue metallic liveried car, starting third. And Mike Newton, he does know his MG, it's the EX264, he's owned it and raced it ever since period, twice a Le Mans LMP2 winner. He's going to try and hang on. He won't have the same performance, but he's right in the mix. And you know what? Being cognizant, look at those 3 Maseratis, blue, red and aquamarine, all line astern on the right-hand side of the grid from the driver's point of view. So, going to be rolling thunder.
Wait for the flag. They'll let everybody get back into line. It's not a massive run down to the first corner, and then we'll wait for them to be released, still with the red lights on. 40 minutes on the clock. Endurance Racing Legends, green light. And we are racing, and immediately Alfie Briggs in the white and blue number 150 Zytek 04S takes to the inside, protects the corner, and we'll just wait for a moment to see if everybody got through. But Alfie, got round the outside.
Who's coming into third? Loris Hazemans from 8th on the grid in the yellow Lotus. A brilliant start. I tried to stay quiet as they went to the first corner. We joked with Toyn Hazemans, so can he win the race? Well, maybe he can win his class. Well, he's trying to win the race outright. It's a 40-minute race. Look at that little, well, it seems quite large, actually, the Lotus in comparison to the 2 cars ahead. But Olivier Gallon, good line.
He's up to second. He's up to second, even before the braking area there.
Turn the wick up on your engine, except it's not turbocharged. Oh, my golly. But, OK, right, expect Alfie Briggs to go, hold on a second, that should not be happening. He started on pole. Look at the massive aero under the back of that Zytek, you know, made for purpose. He's going to try and fight back into Bruxelles. No, he backs out. The Lotus.
From the leader.
Excellent. Mike Newton's going to lose relative to the front runners. 2 of the 3 are LMP1 cars. He won't have their performance, but here we go. I should be able to be up with that little Lotus. That's from GT1. So Mike Newton in 4th place, the red, white and blue Lola. MG Lola will be getting his head down, seeing what he can do. But, oh, my word, we heard there was a mistake that cost Loris Hazemans 4 places on the grid and running very wide at Pouhon, somehow finding some grip from, well, who knows where, stays in 2nd place.
Yeah, he went into the first part of Pouhon a little bit too quickly. Back end started to protest a little bit, but he's held on to that nicely. So difficult to pass in that part of the circuit, plunging downhill. But the additional aero of the prototype Zytek should be able to get up to the inside. Not a race history on that car. Chassis number 4, chassis 2 and 3, very well known and passed around a few places. The Templar Avis, of course, is also the same car underneath, but was effectively renamed under license, wasn't it, Bruce? And they made a couple of, maybe 3 of the DBAs actually.
Yeah, it was the Reynard O2S project. Reynard for long so strong in single-seaters, moved over to sports cars, didn't really work. Right, Alfie Briggs back into second place. But we'll look at timing interval to our race leader, Olivier Gallon. Brilliant start from him in the Paynos. He's going to be, what, 3-4 seconds clear? Over the start-finish line he goes, waiting for the second place car, 3.2 seconds. But the Lotus fights back. I have unfinished work.
Same places that made up all the positions from the start, which is round the outside at La Source. Alfie Briggs is wise to it this time. But the Lotus, right in the wheel tracks, won't go through at the bottom of the hill over the bridge at Eau Rouge. Oh, and a much better run by Briggs through Eau Rouge and up to Radion. And I do think that Loris Hazeman's just had to lift off there. I think he was too much in the aero wash of that prototype ahead.
Fantastic battle between the two of the three Maseratis and the red Vodafone car with Kriton Lendounis, the Greek shipping man. Well, made that look very easy going past Joe McCurry. Joe, who spun out earlier in the previous race, maybe just being a little bit cautious. But the third Maserati's a little bit further back in the hands of Alexander Rittweger. But what we're seeing now was basically the high aero performance of the Zytek, just making it easy through Eau Rouge and Radion, and now he's made the break, and I fear the Lotus will lose the toe. It does seem to have plenty of grunt, but you have a sequence of faster corners, and he's going to struggle. What's happening? Is the cavalry coming forward? Well, the cavalry appears to be the MC12, the red one of Kriton Lendounis. Joe McCurry dropping back a little bit, the Lola challenging him, Peter Wolf in that bright yellow car, car number 39, getting close and close. And again, when you've got these two cars side by side in the background of the shot, when you get the faster corners, advantage to the open top sports car. They're more aerodynamic, they're faster. You look at the way the air is channeled underneath them, they're far, far more efficient. But you've got to choose your moments. So Peter Wolf is starting to wait for that, and in front of him, Joe McCurry getting a little bit tail happy in that blue Red Bull sponsored car.
Yeah, Joe drives that Maserati quite regularly, and is very experienced in it. The little LMP2 675 car, of course, as it was, 675, referring to the minimum weight of the car, 675 kilos. The top class cars at that time were 900 kilos. Regs changed, but just a little 2-litre 4-cylinder AER turbo engine, rebranded as an MG for the works cars. Martin, Bahrain and Lola turning out a number of chassis around this time that could be used with a variety of engines. There were other engines in that chassis as well that raced around the world.
Yeah, I mean, in the history of sports car racing, there have been periods where everything is aligned, and the periods when everyone's doing it differently. You know, you just have to go with that, and you need a chassis, particularly if your business model, as it was with Lola, is to sell. You know, they sold their 1000th racing car. I think it was a Formula Ford car in 1975, and they were the most successful, you know, racing car constructor in the world. Times changed though, but for them, customer cars were where it was at. And certainly for people like Peter Wolf, he's the beneficiary. He's fallen back a little bit in that challenge in the background of the shot.
But Lola are back
indeed
in the hands now of Till Bechtelsheimer, and they've got a new product, albeit one that looks like a Lola should do.
Yeah, it's there's a road and track day special. It's the T70S. It's an exquisite bit of kit. I mean, it's always been a beautiful body shape, but also they're running a works team in Formula E. They're going down very many avenues, not yet known to the public, to do with bringing forward technology. Racing is always driven by technology.
Correct.
So, the third of the Maserati MC12s. Alexander Rittweger running in 9th place overall, and the Scot behind him, Gregor Fiskin, really he had 3 appearances in the Le Mans 24 Hours. He sells cars. He also likes racing them, and he really races a huge range. There he is in the 008 Aston Martin, pushing, probing in that DBR9, looking to see, and a big tail slide there from Alexander Rittweger, who actually sort of did that on his own. Fiskin wasn't quite close enough to put him, but I guess when you're under that sort of pressure, now he most certainly is. And of course, when you go through Curve Paul Frey, you've got that long arc to the right-hand side, and there we are. That is someone absolutely catching a toe. Gregor Fiskin, but he's got to make it work.
Look at those two cars, though. You know, the Aston Martin, you can clearly see, has its roots in a car that, whilst it wasn't series production, of course, Aston Martin is a bespoke manufacturer, but they were turning those cars out with the extruded aluminium monocoque and chassis spine part. That was the basis of their business model for their street cars, their road cars, for a very long time. And then the Maserati turns up with this carbon fibre chassis,
everything,
monocoque, everything, and basically threw the kitchen sink at it. Meantime, the battle for the lead, Bruce, is at the end of the Kemmel Straight, and the Panos that's been on its own for so long is now not, and Alfie Briggs is right there in the Zytek 04S.
Yeah, previous lap he took 1.5 seconds out of the race leader. The gap, remember, was 2 and a bit seconds at the end of the opening lap. He got pushed back to 3rd place overall. The Lotus is history. It's the top of the shot on the right-hand side. Remember, that got between the 2 LMP2 cars. Loris Hazeman down to Bruxelles, but basically Alfie Briggs, I sort of felt needed to bide his time and work out how to get past the Lotus. That he did. Okay, a little bit of a mistake, but you've got to keep challenging. Still plenty of time left in this race, but he's trying to unseat Olivier Gallon, and their discretion was the better part of valour. Backed out at Les Combes, slotted back into 2nd place, but the ease with which he suddenly removed a 2-second lead, reduced, and then nearly moved ahead, means he can do it again. Alfie Briggs in the number 150 Zytek, and as John pointed out at the top of the show, this was a car that was a test car, never raced, and now a little bit of action at the back of the field. Number 20 Pilbeam, that's Pierre Bruno being challenged by the Xavier Micheron driven Courage, and again the best place to do passing, as long as you've got a good run through Eau Rouge and Radion, is the top end of the Kemmel Straight up at Les Combes, and that was an attempt, didn't quite work. And still, look, Alfie Briggs, 2nd place, right now on the tail of Olivier Gallon. Certainly the quicker car in terms of combination around the track, but Olivier is showing a great deal of experience in his still relatively young racing career. He said, I've got the grunt, but what I don't have is the aerodynamic advantage. That definitely is the chasing car, the pole car, the white and blue Zytek of Alfie Briggs. So, Alfie has got to play a game of chess. Right. Where do I strike? I mean, if I was playing chess, I'd have lost my rook and a couple of the knights as well by now. But down past the endurance pits they go, and the advantage going up the straight in terms of power will be the race-leading Panos, but in terms of approach speed onto the Kemmel Straight, it will definitely be a better run. And how much better from the chasing Zytek. He's gained the best part of a second in that swoop. And right now, there is Olivier Gallon saying, oh, what I would give to drive your car, but I've still got grunt. So he's trying to fight back up to Les Combes. Doesn't quite work. But I seriously can't believe the pace of that Zytek. It handled beautifully through Eau Rouge, and then when the track snapped uphill to Radion, just performance to spare.
So we're not even halfway through this, just gone through the first quarter of the race, 10 minutes down, and it's Zytek, Panos, Lotus, MG, Mike Newton leading his class. So all of those cars, in fact, Clinton Ledudis as well, all of the top 5 are class leaders, but never mind that, they're battling for outright honours here, and that Panos is not being dropped at the moment.
No, but I think it will be, because I think, you know, when you're passing, you lose a little bit of time. But the performance of Alfie Briggs, I knew he was quick, I knew the car was quick. He has the handling performance on the quick corners absolutely in his pocket. Right, really, you talk about 5 cars in the 5 classes in the top 5 positions. What it really boils down to is 2 LMP1 cars, just the first and second in the race. They're in different classes because the one in second place is older, okay? Then we got a GT1 class car, that's in third, that's the Yellow Lotus. Then we got an LMP2. Effectively, it's 3 categories of racing and 2 subclasses. So maybe to keep it simple, we'll just refer to LMP1s, GT1s, and LMP2s. LMP2, just going out of our shot, is, sorry, that's Alfie Briggs going out of our shot. It's the 4th place car of Mike Newton. It's the one with the white with red and blue, the Lola designed MG badged P2 car, Mike Newton in there. Further down the order, we've got the red car there is a Courage in behind, making decent ground is Xavier Micheron in a blue Courage. And then just behind that was Pierre Bruno and Marcus Palzer doing his best in his bi-turbo Porsche, but that didn't start well, and I'm not sure it's running really well, but a very, very complex car, in fact, that bi-turbo, famously so.
Yeah, that was the last of the turbocharged GT cars. Peterson White Lightning in the States were running those cars. Got a feeling, and Johnny Morland will be watching this, hello JMO if you are, I have a feeling that Johnny Morland in that era was one of the drivers that took the turbocharged 911 to its last international victory. was a big change in what was going on. Porsche moving to normally aspirated flat six engines, which they still have in their GT cars, out to 4.18 something now, which came from the old GTE, GT1 days. And let me tell you, there is not another millimetre that you could get between those bores on the cylinders nowadays, but they're all normally aspirated based on that 4 litre, that venerable 4 litre flat six block, still being used in Porsche Carrera Cup in 4 litre form, even though the bodywork has changed.
Here we have Mark Rostan and Pierre Bruno, or is it Pierre Bruno and Mark Rostan? Because these are 2 red pill beams, and they will hopefully be in neighbouring garages, because driver 1 goes from car 1 to car 2, or car 20 to the sister car number 99. Pierre Bruno is in the car that's leading their little group. That's the MP93, slightly squarer of nose, more chiselled nose, if you will, of the chasing MP91 from 2004. Mark has always been a tip-top driver, never got the brakes. In fact, he was a Peugeot development driver when he was in Formula 3000, but an engineer as well as a racer. But they need to stay as close as they can to possible to just simply make their pit stop a little more useful.
There's been an issue for the second of those red cars, the number 99 Mark Rostan, because there's something flapping underneath and at the right rear of that car, so we'll have to keep an eye on that. The Lola MG, the Hot Wheels livery car, has caught them now, and that's a battle for 4th, 5th and 6th for LMP2B category. And we have the internecine Maserati battle as well, although it's not the battle of the phone companies, Vodafone versus Vitaphone, but it is the red and white Vodafone car ahead of the Red Bull livery car, and they are battling further up the field. That's 5th and 6th, and that is 1st and 2nd in their class. They are in the same class. They've got a slightly narrower rear wing. Originally the cars would have had a wider front wing, but that was outlawed as well, and Maserati desperately trying to get the car into more championships around the world.
I honestly thought that having pulled in front of that little MC12 battled his Vodafone livery red and white car, that Kriton Lidudis would pull away, but the Greek has still, in car number 11, has still got Joe Macari in the Red Bull livery Maserati in the background, car 46 in the background of the shot. It looks like we might have a change of place. The DBA of Emil Breitmeier, looks like Peter Wolf in the yellow Lotus is going to pick him off.
Goes around the outside fairly easily there in that, the number 24 dropping down a position then, and
I simply think Emil Breitmeier is a very, very quick and capable driver. I think maybe all isn't right, or he's just being cautious. This is his first time racing. As he said, at Barcelona there were problems, or maybe he's just thinking this doesn't handle like GT40. I was racing all around France last week, but I would put the balance on the fact that I've seen Emil drive so many cars and drives them beautifully that he's just feeling his way in this one. But Peter Wolf knows that yellow Lola very, very well indeed. Now he's getting on the tail of Joe Macari, and that's going to help Kriton Lidudis just maybe pull away a little bit. But look, on the second part of Pouon, the handling you get from a prototype versus a GT was enormous. But you know what, Joe Macari did a very, very good job of staying legally in the middle of the circuit there.
Well, and also you're talking about a car that's 675 kilos against one that's probably 12.5, 1,300 kilos. So you're pretty much talking about a car, albeit with a smaller engine, turbocharged, maybe doesn't have the outright torque, but it'll have had plenty. It has plenty of power from that little 2-litre AER engine, but it's got half the weight, and half the weight is good, not just in top speed and how much power you need to push you through the air. It's that dynamic ability that Bruce was talking about, where you can move the car around, and of course that car is exploiting downforce as well, the yellow car. There's the first of the pit stops. Pit lane window has just opened.
We've already got someone in, which is Georges Gagnon in the Lindsay, but I didn't notice if that was... Did he just get in, or was he already in for a non-pit stoppy?
Yeah, I think you might be right, actually, because he's been in for a lap. Yeah. Bright red and white Vodafone number 11 coming down the pit lane. By the way, just some numbers to throw at you. It's a very pleasant 28 Celsius in the air. However, for the tyres and the air intakes, how about 46 Celsius on the track? Yeah, 46 Celsius on the track. Tyre engineers start to get interested around about this, getting up towards 50 Celsius. Meantime, the battle goes on at Le Combe. Nice bit of racing room given there by the Creation liveried car. That's the number 24, Emil Breitmeier, the DB03S. As we were saying, that was a Zytek basically underneath an 04S and coming from that Reynard category. I've got a feeling, I was talking to Sam Hignett the other day, it's Silverstone Sam Hignett from Jota, and Sam lent or gave some bodywork that they had up on their wall of champions so that somebody could make a mould of that, because they of course started off with Zytek. Jota Racing, who've won here in the World Endurance Championship with Porsche, their previous manufacturer, now Cadillac Hertz Team Jota. So right in the middle of the pit stops now, and there's no rush going on here, Bruce, because it's not about who's got the fastest pit crew here. It's about making sure everything's done, if there is anything to be done, that it's done safely and securely.
It's just totally sensible. You don't need as many people in your pit crew if you're not having to do a super quick pit stop. There's generous time across the meeting, but it's a safety element. You know, it just makes sense. However, Olivier Galland continues, but he's just lost so much time relative to our race leader, Alfie Briggs, 13 seconds down. So the pace early on, I'm beginning to suggest that maybe Olivier Galland consumed his tyres a little bit more, trying to keep up with the better handling Zytek, and is now paying the price. But his best lap, the difference between their best lap is 2.5 seconds. No wonder there's such an advantage. What I also love is when you look at cars like this Marcus Mantara, of course it will say Core Oyster on the roof, but you look on the other side, see who else raced it in period? Callum Lockie, who'll be here this weekend racing a Morgan SLR in the 60s in Enduro element. Such a difference.
Little bit of trivia for Callum. He won a national championship last year in the UK on 4 and on 2 wheels. And I can't find in a single racing series where anybody has done that before. A single racing season. But national level championship on both 2 and 4 wheels for Mr. L.
Well, he has launched himself into the pond of 2 wheels and is lapping it up. And I think for everybody concerned, it means he might have fewer of these motorbikes in the house, which could be a good thing. I don't know. See what Melinda thinks.
Hello to Arnage Rob. He says, I've not mowed the lawn for the past 3 weeks because I went to the Spa 6 hours, then I watched the Nürburgring 24 last week, and then work. So it was pretty hard work today, and I've just collapsed with a cuppa. Oh, blow me if Spark Classic isn't on. So just the tonic. Which reminds me, I've got some flavoured gin that I need to drink. Oh yes, Rob, very well done. And hello to Dal, says, if you're indoors escaping from the hot sun, well worthwhile sitting down as I've done and putting YouTube on and watching some glorious Spa Classic action.
Right, here's what we always call in the business Pilbeam pit stop action. The 2 red cars coming in the front of that queue. The driver from one car has to hop out and get in the other, and vice versa. Hopefully it's synchronicity. Yeah, they're only part 10 metres apart, so that should be fine. But you wonder what Nell Stark's brought his Lola MG and tucked it in behind them, which seems remarkable.
They're not changing.
Maybe they are, maybe they're not. But they have in previous races.
They aren't changing.
No,
they would have been out by
I'm
now.
not getting out. I'm not getting out.
No.
Maybe they hedge their bets, but in terms of natural pace, you would expect them, Pierre Bruno, to lose out a little bit. He's very experienced, but I don't know why everyone's stacked in there. Right, the Lotus has come in. Remember that car started 6th, that bright yellow Lotus for Loris Hazeman. So he'll hand over to Father Mike. That's in the background of the shot, though.
And the Chamberlain Synergy 39 car had problems. They had the engine cover off and were... I don't know whether it stopped or whether they couldn't get it restarted or whatever, but that they were spraying some what looked to be easy start on the engine to get it going. The Lotus, has come to a halt, almost getting its Goodyear branded tyres in exactly the same place either side, which would have been very impressive. The Hot Wheels Lola in bright green. That was a colour that you could get your road car in, and without any hint of irony at all back in the day, it was called Chernobyl green. Believe it or not, that was what it said on the colour sheet.
And I'd have to say it's very much gained in popularity as of last weekend in the Nürburgring 24 Hours, because that was the green hue on the Dacia logo.
It was indeed.
49,000 million hits. As much popularity almost as Max Verstappen making his appearance there. But it's been a perennial favourite, but a whole new audience has got to see a car that doesn't like it, shouldn't. Oh, it is.
Can you believe that the MG has still got the blanking over the nose, over the cooling on the nose of that car? Here's the Pierre Martinet sponsored number 996, which is indeed a Type 996 Porsche. Twin turbo,
and
six.
as no driver change appears to be effective, we have to presume that Chris Harris of road car fame in its many forms will not be racing this weekend. So Malka Paltula is doing the lot here. So anyhow, wonderful, warm, late spring afternoon. Feels like high summer, looks like high summer. And what a mix of cars. In from the lead of the race by dint of Alfie Briggs having pulled out 13 seconds on him, and then maybe 16 by the time the pit stops. Olivier Gallon is going to do his best, but he nearly did the pit wall.
Yeah, it's under 2 minutes now to pit window closing, so it has to be this lap. Even had they gone straight through, doing their best is a 2:16. I don't think they would have got another one in. 2:16.1 for that car, as through goes the Lotus back down towards Eau Rouge, staying well clear of the cars. Loris Haseman staying behind the wheel of that Elise.
No, I'm fairly confident there was a driver change, so I expect Father Mike to have got on board. Of course, Mike was racing that in period in the late 1990s. I think 1997 was the debut season for that car. It is a 1997 vintage car, and I remembered seeing it out on the FIA Championship that year, but also Le Mans. It never got the just rewards at Le Mans, but right now it's just lovely seeing these cars back on the track. And well, hopefully it wasn't too much of a delay for the number 39 Peter Wolf driven Lola BO540. BO5 means 2005. There you go. You don't have to be a genius on that one. And the 40 nomenclature for LMP2 from Lola. Slightly convoluted numbering system, but there was a pattern to it. Certainly not as convoluted as Ferrari Formula 1 chassis numbers. They seem to have a different version every couple of years, which for those of us who tend to be of the historian nature, it's a little bit maddening.
Yes, we were trying to work that out a couple of weekends ago, weren't we? Back to the good old days when 512 in Ferrari meant 5 litre 12 cylinder. The Lindsay looks to be going slow, not just letting the leader through.
Well, I think the Lindsay, it's still listed as having Georges Gagnard at the wheel, but it was, sorry, I called Georges Guillaume Gagnard, but it should be Jean-Francois Besson in the second part of the race, or maybe George was just going, you know what, it's had a bit of a problem, it's still very new, I just need to assess the issue.
So this is the battle for the lead, because Alfie Briggs went in one lap before the Paynos. The Paynos is still on the pit lane. Yes, it is.
Just remember, before they came in, I think the last time I checked, the gap between first and second between Alfie Briggs in the Zytek and Olivier Gallon in the Paynos was somewhere around 16 seconds. But it's a very long exit to the pit lane here, and you have to go the whole way down to rejoin at Eau Rouge. So
he's just on the endurance part of the pit lane now in the Paynos. So Alfie, I think, has lost the lead here to that, or has lost some ground, should I say, to the Paynos. Yeah, Paynos is already halfway down the Camel Straight, and the limbs up the Camel Straight, and the Lindsay has ground to a halt on the outside of Blanchimont.
Is that Blanchimont? It's downhill at Pouhon, I think. It's halfway between first and second Pouhon.
You are right.
But again, when you're shown a gravel trap and just an expanse of tarmac, it could be anywhere. But importantly, he's off. But not importantly, he's off. He's far from the side of the circuit. But I would want that car moved.
Yellow flag's been covering that at the moment. So Paynos, Olivier Gallon in the lead. 10 laps having been completed. But more importantly, 13.5 minutes to go. So the chase is on. And where's Mike Newton? Has he got out as well? Yes, he has. So Mike Newton has jumped up the order. Whereas Hazelman's is right with him. I think Mike is So the leaders...
Mike is right in front of Alfie Briggs. You see him coming out of into Speaker's corner. But the yellow flag will not help the chaser, which is Alfie Briggs. He cannot overtake, so he's losing some of the advantage he can claw back.
Well, and remember, he had a longer pit stop. He was telling Vincent that at the beginning. This is the part of the balance of performance, if you will. But for once, we're not balancing the cars. Such a controversial thing to do. But we are actually balancing the drivers. Aston versus Maserati, that has been going on for lap after lap now down in Brussels, and it is the Vitaphone car and the DBR9 that are having the scrap. Tell you what, that Aston looks like it can pick any line it wants through the corners there, Bruce.
It absolutely does. And in fact, just before we did the TV set in the studio, talking to various Carl Tilley and Chris Ward, and I love it when you get drivers just who race different categories going, you know, what's it like, what's this, what that. You're here with the GT3s. They go, the Aston's really easy to drive in GT3. The Porsche is much, much harder, the cars than the vintage. Yeah. And you look from the outside, and of course they're balanced, so their lap time should be the same, not always the same at all points around the circuit, but their manufacturer lap time should be equalised. But some are easier to drive, and when you move to a later iteration of the Mercedes AMG, for example, they thought, right, the second generation must be kinder to the gentleman driver to bring them on. If you have something that turns on the head of a pin, that's not any good for an AM driver. So, you know, there are differences between the manufacturers for sure.
New fastest lap of his race, and for the 1B class for Alfie Briggs at 13.752, but that is by far the quickest car on the track at the moment as we wait for Olivier Galland to get back up to pace in the LMP1 Pernod's Roadster S. This enthralling battle between two very different philosophies of racing car, and the Aston Martin, well, the Empire striking back there down the inside into La Source and retakes the position ahead of that number 2.
Yeah, it was a really good move through the bus stop from Gregor. He went in tight and came out wide, and that gave him momentum onto the start-finish straight. But he was absolutely intent. And Alexander Rittbecker, I think, was sort of caught a little bit napping. He thought, I've got the middle of this corner covered off, but he hadn't worked out that corner exit speed was key. And unfortunately, one of the cars is parked up in the garage. That's Xavier Micheron, the Courage. That's one of the 4 LMP1 class cars, but it started way down the order in about 13th position. And during the race, it was fighting with LMP2 cars, and that's not the sort of environment you expect it to be in. So clearly some problems.
Look how low that rear wing was mounted, way out behind and so low down. I loved that era. Powered by the hugely reliable and powerful Nissan-based V8. So the 996 Porsche has just gone over the top. The number 996 Porsche has just gone over the top of Radion, Marcus Baltala driving that. The low rumble of Olivier Galland. And I read at the last timing point, that was 21 seconds, that gap between the Pernod's and the Lotus Elise. So Alfie Briggs a further 7.5 behind that. So that is the sharp end of half a minute. But of course he did have that extra 20-odd seconds penalty. So just under 10 minutes to go down on the circuit with the ERL1s, the Endurance Racing Legend 1 category. This is their first of 2 races of the weekend. Perfect weather conditions. And Paynos down there, coming down the hill. Let's break away from the action for a moment.
In the pits with Xavier Micheron, and this car, this Courage, is unfortunately the only retirement. Xavier, on va même la faire en français. Malheureusement, le seul abandon de la course pour l'instant. Il y a eu quoi?
En fait, j'ai perdu l'embrayage. Il y a un émetteur hydraulique qui a lâché, et donc j'ai pas pu redémarrer là.
Alors vous êtes un spécialiste, Xavier, de ces prototypes des temps modernes, hein, on peut le dire, par rapport à d'autres catégories ici. C'est comment sur Spa-Francorchamps? C'est idéal, on imagine.
Ah, c'est fabuleux, hein. Là en plus, bon, on est avec une voiture que l'on découvre. puisqu'elle a été restaurée. C'est la première course dans laquelle on l'engage. Et c'est une voiture un peu plus ancienne que celle avec laquelle je roulais précédemment, puisque là, c'est une Courage du Mans 99 qui a terminé 6e. Et la voiture est fabuleuse. On a dû faire évidemment des réglages pour trouver de la vitesse. Et là, je commençais vraiment à avoir de la vitesse, que je n'ai pas l'habitude de partir de si loin. Mais là, on commence à apprendre la voiture. Et franchement, à Spa, c'est fabuleux. Hein, parce que là, pour le coup, elle a beaucoup de... Clairement, elle passe très très fort. Hein, elle a une très très bonne vitesse de pointe. Donc, c'est fabuleux.
Donc, on va voir prochainement avec cette auto, on imagine, Xavier?
Oui, en fait, elle est engagée au Mans Classique. Dans le plateau 8, donc un plateau pour les protos de 94 à 99, ça sera une des voitures les plus modernes du plateau. Et je serai avec Olivier, qui sera avec la Panose. Et puis, on va essayer de s'amuser.
And it's a very good news. This Courage will be back at Le Mans.
Thank you very much, Vincent. That was Xavier Micheron, who drives cars, prepares them and sells them. This is the car, as he said, finished 6th. Look at the names on the side. Alex Caffey, Andrea Montermini and Mimo Chattarella. When we looked at the cars, we thought, what happened to Mimo? He was there, he had his little crack on the edge of Formula One, but again, you can't remember everything, but great to have. And also Xavier saying how much he enjoyed racing the open-topped prototypes as well. And it is a factor. You love them, John. You talked about having the head up, but actually when we got to the circuit on Thursday, wasn't it? I think we were talking to Jan Magnussen, he was saying, look, I've been driving a little Lola, he's driving later, little 2-litre sports car. Look, bits of rubber coming up, and it's smashed the nail on one of his thumbs, and the stuff that comes into the cockpit is a problem. I think probably more so with those 1970s Lolas than the later ones that had more aero that would shift.
Pushing stuff over the top.
A lot more stuff.
I was very fortunate to see the very last LMP2 open top race. Johnny Palmer and I called that an Estoril, and whilst they were sitting in Parc Fermé afterwards, we wandered down just to take it in, as it was literally the sun setting on that form of motor racing. But wait, because they're all coming back. The racing in historic racing in the States with HSR, which is now part of IMSA, of course, and John Doonan, who's the president of IMSA, taking a particular interest in the HSR side of things. And indeed, there's a connection between Peter Auto and the HSR, running classes in the Daytona 24 Hours Classic later in the year. And we've got some NASCAR coming over to the Le Mans Classic this year, first weekend in July. Yeah, HSR returning the compliment.
Yeah, it's in the one in middle of November, 10th to 15th of November. Correct. At the Daytona Classic. It's the 60s Endurance. We'll have racing them here. For a lot of those people, that is something very special. They're accustomed to racing in Europe, but the chance to go en masse over to a circuit like Daytona, too good to be missed. One person who's tumbled down the order after that sensational start is still listed as Loris Hazemans, but I did see a driver change, so I'm sure it's Mike. He brought the Lotus Elise into the pits about a minute and a half ago. And it appears also another car in the pits is Coroiza with his Marcos. Remember that Mantara, very bright, but unfortunately not very loud at the moment because it's being pushed back into its pit garage. But the battle for the Maserati MC12s, Creton Lendudis, car number 11, that's the red and white one, and then in behind, as ever, Joe Macari in the number 46. Red ahead of blue, and they're fighting over 5th position. They're also fighting over the top position in GT1. Best of the rest is Gregor Fiskin. We saw he made that great overtaking manoeuvre a short while ago on the third of the Maserati, so he's third in class.
It's Liam Hazemans that took over.
Ah, okay, so Loris to Liam, so L to L.
Yeah, that didn't help, did it?
No, they should have thought about that when they got to the font.
Yeah. Also got a pit stop infringement, and I think it is for that car. I think it is for the 43 car. 27 seconds under investigation. Oh, actually there's two I've seen now. So there's a 27 seconds and under investigation. I think there might have been a tad late making that pit stop. I'll update you for that at the moment.
Yeah, the Lotus wasn't, because it came in as all those midfield runners we saw on the LMP2 cars. So it might have been a bit short rather than a bit. But anyhow, the Marcos sitting in the garage, engine problem. Torch looking under that mighty unit under the hood. We've got 3.5 minutes left in this race, and here's the margin. 17 seconds. 10 seconds gained in the last handful of laps by the chasing Alfie Briggs.
The reason I thought they were late, Bruce, is they've been through the pit lane twice.
No, that's what I said. They came back into the pits with whatever the problem was.
Yeah.
So
and that was when they changed drivers.
No, they changed drivers the first time.
No, 29 minutes passed. So they changed it the second. So
I saw a driver change.
Maybe that's when it's just flicked over.
No, I definitely saw one driver out, and I just saw a darker helmet driver going in. So it looks like the best battle of the race is going to be. You might think, looking at the screen, it's between the two Maseratis for GT1 honours in 5th place and 6th place, between Creton Ledudis in red and Joe Macari in blue. However, Alfie Briggs, at this point, with 2.5 minutes remaining and a few seconds, is clawing down the lead. It's come from 27 seconds down to 15 seconds. The clock is not going to be his friend. He's going to run out of time to hunt down from Olivier Gallon, but his sheer pace in that car, his best lap is 3 seconds faster than the race-leading Panos of Gallon.
And whilst the two Maseratis are battling coming to the pit stop, Joe Macari tries to look at the inside, kind of had position, but just couldn't roll off the brake in time. We will see that Lotus back in again, Bruce, because it's been black flagged and they're refueling in the race. So they already had a 43-second penalty, and now they've been pinged again.
Well, there you go. And not long left, just under 2 minutes. The gap is now under 15 seconds. But Vincent is in the pit lane, and he's next to an interview with the inimitable Korreuser, driver of the Marcos.
Unfortunately, it's a retirement for this car, this wonderful Marcos Mantara LM600. This guy is the same guy for so many years. Korreuser, what was the problem, Cor?
We have a power steering leak, so the power steering was locking up, so I saw a little smoke coming out of the front end, so I said I better stop because it really started to turn heavy, and that's too dangerous with this car.
Cor, I remember I was 25 years old and I came here in Spa commentating my first races, and you were here with this car in the Bell Car Championship at the time. Is it the same car?
It's absolutely the same car. This car is with me for 27 years now. We built the car ourselves. It always was in my garage, and I'm still racing it.
And it's still the same driver?
Exactly.
So young, absolutely. Mr. Korreuser.
That is a phenomenal story. Brilliant. The same car and the same driver combination.
And just the same enthusiasm from Cor. Tip-top driver. And, yeah, you might have said he could have moved on to other things, but he just absolutely loved this Marcos. He likes cars with big grunt. And it just suits him and his character down to the ground. Shame it hasn't got through to the end. The end of the race, however, is nearly upon us. This is the last lap. The gap has come down to 10 seconds. Alfie Briggs, well, his best lap is 3 seconds faster than the race leader, Olivier Gallon, so he's not going to be able to claw that back, but it's been a massive charge from Alfie Briggs. Why is he in second if he's in the fastest car in the race? Because he had to serve a longer pit stop. In the background of the shot, that isn't his red car. I think that was Mark Drain, who's a lap down in his Courage. Yeah, but behind, with the headlights on, white with the blue flashes, Alfie Briggs is chasing. The margin's going to come down below 10 seconds. It might get down to 6.5 seconds. It might be whatever. It's futile, but it's racing. You've got to go for it.
He took 6.5 seconds out of the lead last time around, as you were saying, and he's absolutely flying. Now, all there needs to be is a bit of traffic, really, to slow the leader down.
But
bad news for...
But alas, there isn't.
I was just about to say, bad news for the chaser. There's nobody. Leader coming down into Pouhon, and the next traffic is coming out of Curve Paul Fret.
Yeah, he shouldn't even catch that as fast as he is before he gets to the end of the lap. In fact, only one other car is in front of him, apart from the number 2. That sounds a backward sentence, doesn't it? Alexander Rittweger is the driver he may catch, but I don't think he will. But right now, going to the lowest point on the circuit, the chasing white and blue Zytek, Alfie Briggs, cut the gap. It's under 9 seconds. He's going to get it down to maybe 6 seconds. But the driver on screen, car number 1, black, orange and silver, engine up front, Olivier Gallon, tall driver sticking out the top. He is surely heading for victory, but he's been made to really work for it. But the longer pit stop for Alfie Briggs, while Zytek driving pole sitter, well, that's cost him big time. And also being delayed by the Lotus at the start of the race when it went up from 6th and got between him and Olivier Gallon. Took him a while.
6 seconds. You were spot on, Bruce. It's come down to 6 seconds.
We're not there yet.
Took 2.5 seconds in the first sector, 2 seconds in the second sector, but the Panos, the front engine car with the normally aspirated American V8, pushed way back in that long nose. Almost looks like a big aircraft carrier, doesn't it? You could land helicopters on that.
Well,
comes through.
Well, the gap will be about 4 seconds. No, 4.1 seconds by the end of the race. What a chase from Alfie Briggs, but he knew he had the longer pit stop, but really what hurt him, still waiting for the third place car to come through. It should be Mike Newton in that MG EX24, the LMP2 runner, but being stuck behind the Lotus in the first lap of the race really cost him.
Cretan Lendudis and Joe Macari still having their battle as well, and that is for a class win, let's not forget, in GT1. That's in 5th and 6th behind Emil Breitmeier in the DBA, the Den Bla Arvis.
Yeah, which suddenly got its form in the second half of the race and has caught right back up with Mike Newton. Mike may not finish in third, but the LMP2 car does just do that. Remember, the metallic blue Emil DBA fell to about 8th place in the race and seemed out of sorts, but the second half really hooked it up.
And here are the two battling. Oh, and it appears that Joe has dropped back just a little bit. He was only 0.2 of a second away across the line, and he's under pressure for an overall position from Peter Wolf in the bright yellow Lola. That's not a class position, but Joe holds on to it anyway. So Maserati's first and second in GT1B, and in fact in third in that class is the Aston Martin. Gregor Fiskin, there he goes across the line, the V12 screaming along to itself. Then it'll be Liam Hazeman's. That car did not come in for the black flag. They might be being invited to go and see the clerk of the course there, because that car was black flagged a lap or two ago. Normally, if you've got a penalty to serve, it's 3 times past the starter stand, but for a black flag you have to come in at the next possible opportunity. So that will be being looked at there. If there is a meeting, there'll be no coffee and biscuits, I'm sure.
No, indeed. Also, they got penalised for an issue in qualifying as well. So,
and by the way, you were spot on. That 27 seconds was a short pit stop when they did it. You were so
well, they came in behind the others and then just seemed to get going before. And to my simple mind, that seems to equate undercutting the others. However, you can never really judge from the outside because you have to assess the ranks of the drivers, and that also dictates the length of those pit stops. And also for Peter Wolf in that yellow Lola, we sensed there was a problem. The engine cover was up, so I thought that could have settled it. But right now, Olivier Galland, he was all smiles on the grid. He knew he had a battle ahead of him to try and keep the Panos at the front, or get the Panos to the front. He managed that on the opening lap of the race. Alfie Briggs in the Zytek that started from pole, he said that will have far more handling than my car. It's lighter than my car. But he got a bad start. He got passed by the GT1 Lotus, got delayed, and in the end of the race, I sensed that was the difference between victory for Alfie Briggs and not.
Ian McCarthy, always intensely sensible, says, "Good afternoon, lads. Really enjoying the historic weekends that you guys cover. Something comforting about how relatively quickly we get to see retired categories racing again. I've really missed the open top prototypes at Le Mans, particularly LMP2. Far be it from me to gainsay you, Ian, and I agree with everything you say, but I don't think there's a car in this race that is under 20 years old. So relatively recently is, relatively. It is a relative term. You're spot on.
Look, it nearly stretches to 30 years, John. Let's be generous. The Lotus from 1997. Yeah. So we're nearly there, but you're spot on as always, Ian. And it's just lovely to see it. Or maybe just as you get older, the years go by a little faster. Who knows? But certainly the way that, like GT3 becoming a historic category, this being a historic category, but it's great. And also these cars are still simple enough to be run sensibly, which is the key. Some of the ones for the years after that may be a little bit more of a problem in the future.
Yeah, that's very true. And when you see what has to happen for some of the classic Formula One cars now, big trade in DOS-based computer systems.
You know, the ones you lobbed out, took to the dump, yeah, they're valuable now.
All of those that you threw away when you were learning how to program. Yeah, if they're in your mum and dad's loft, you need to drag them back out again. I'll buy them off you for 30 bob for 3. Vistion, the offshoot of Ford Motor Company, electronics company, had a big plant and development facility down in South Wales that one year played host to what was then Wales Rally GP, and they had a service area in the car park. Strange how these things come back to mind, don't they? Yeah, down there,
but it's
standing
good,
on
isn't it?
stage.
Stirs the grey matter. So Olivier Gallon will be delighted to be in the shade of the garage. And trust me, it really does make a difference here this weekend so far. Warm conditions and the Panos Roadster, notably a very, very warm car to be on board. Yes, some of the heat would escape out through the top of the cockpit, but for Olivier, at least growing up and living in the Middle East, he's accustomed to a fair bit of heat, but cool individual. But that would have been a warm little office for the last 40 minutes or so.
Bet his feet are warm.
Yeah. No frostbite there.
I remember David Brabham.
Oh, he suffered, didn't he?
Yeah, about the feet on those cars with the heat sink through the pedals. Ollie Gavin as well on the early versions of the Corvette.
Some drivers just have much more sensitive feet. I remember Mark Goossens in Formula 3000, Belgian driver. I'm mentioning because they're on their home patch, but other drivers could drive the same car. But, you know, we are sensitive in different ways. But so there is our race winner. Good to see a little bit of a hug there, Olivier Gallon. And we're going to hear his words with our race winner.
On victory lane with this winner of the race. He said it just before the race. I will try to be first at the first corner and then we will see. Mission accomplie, Olivier, ça a marché le plan?
Ça a marché, ça a marché. Il a freiné plus tôt que je pensais. Et donc je me suis dit, d'habitude c'est souvent une mauvaise idée d'essayer à l'extérieur là. Mais bon, parfois les mauvaises idées fonctionnent. Donc je me suis dit, bon, je tente quand même. Et ça a marché. Et après, il était un peu plus rapide que moi. Je crois qu'il s'est fait passer par la Lotus au départ, qui a une énorme vitesse de pointe, et The MANS. Je ne sais pas lequel des deux conduisait, mais les deux sont très bons. Loris. Donc il a réussi à le passer, ça l'a un peu retardé. Donc je me suis dit, bon, super, je laisse se bagarrer et moi j'essaie de filer. Parce que je savais qu'Alfie, après, avait quand même un peu plus de rythme. Et après, il m'a remonté, j'ai défendu. Et j'ai eu un petit problème de boîte de vitesse en rentrant dans le raidillon, qui m'a fait un peu peur d'ailleurs. Et donc là, je sors large, je me rate un peu et il me passe dans la ligne droite. Et puis après il était plus rapide. Donc, mais bon, comme il avait une pénalité, je réussis à m'en sortir, quoi. Mais je pense que j'ai bien fait de le passer au départ et de le retarder un peu. Parce que sinon, peut-être qu'il arrivait à compenser sa pénalité.
La suite demain?
La suite demain, oui.
Merci Olivier et bravo. We go to the second place now. François, if you can come with me with Alfie Briggs. Alfie, second at the race. It was a tough race, of course. There is this penalty that makes all the difference.
Yeah, I mean, I had a bad start. I didn't have a bad start. Olivier had a really good start. And I got out-dragged down the straight by the Lotus. And then I struggled to get past it. And then Olivier created a gap which made it impossible to catch. So, no, really good fun race. Olivier drove really well. It's just a shame that they have to ruin it with penalties.
It's kind of revenge tomorrow.
Yeah, tomorrow I'll win.
Tomorrow he will win, of course. And the third one, this one, I like this one really. Mr. Mike Newton with this MG Lola, same car, same driver at the time. Mike, once again, top three, good result.
Absolutely, it's great to have the car punching above its weight as it used to in period. So yeah, really delighted with that result. The guys did a brilliant job on the car.
There was Emile Bretmeyer with the DBA just behind you at the finish. It was, okay.
Yeah, I lost 5 seconds in one lap on traffic. It was all in just the wrong place. But then I knew we had to keep the hammer down. I think we actually did our fastest lap on the last lap, staying ahead of the DBA. So yeah, great race, enjoyed it.
Thank you very much, Mike, and congratulations. That was the top three of the first race of the Endurance Racing Legends one.
Just a quick recap of what Olivier Gallant was saying. He said at the start that pretty much the plan worked, but he was very surprised at the pace of the Lotus in a straight line. I think we all were, actually. It was a flying start from 8th, and he did have a little bit of gearbox problem as well, but ultimately it all came together and he wants to do it again tomorrow. Well, we are just looking at the next grid of cars who have indeed just come to the start of the race. And this is the Gentleman's Challenge with a huge grid and variety of cars. The Lister Jaguar Costin leading them out. There was a Lotus 15 at the sharp end of the field as well, with the Lister Nobili and the Porsche 9046 Carrera as well. That car's dropped back a little bit. The Bizzarini 5300 GT there, just going slowly. The white number 46 car.
Chevrolet Power outperforms Jaguar Power on the right-hand side of the screen. Is the Lister Nobili with the Chevrolet engine, but John Spears, no, he's not letting you through. So the pole starting Lister Jaguar Costin, that's the blue one with the white stripe. John Spears gets it in and out of the chicane up at the top at Les Combes. The white Bizzarini getting going again. But 50s and think sports cars from the late 50s and early 60s, some fabulous shapes. You might have already spotted some cars of unbelievable value like that Ferrari 250 short wheelbase near the front of the field as well. And we've also got a glorious 275 GTB Andreas Rollner in that, but that qualified very nicely and is going to do well to stay at the front, but it's still in 4th position there with the cowlings over its headlight. In between, you've got the two Listers, the different shape, the Costin streamlined body one leading the race, the Nobili in behind, and the little Lotus 15 with Serge Kriknoff. He races an extraordinary range of cars. He's got a Surtees Formula 1 car and other things in his stable, but he's going beautifully, the Swiss racer, in 3rd place overall. But John, with a field like this, it's little and large, isn't it?
Oh, in terms of everything. We're not just talking in terms of the actual physical size of the cars, the capacity of the engines, how much noise they make, etc., etc. Mid-engine Porsche in between a couple of front-engine classics. A Healey, absolutely Healey is a classic. And ahead of it, that beautiful Ferrari in a slightly darker red hue, which I think rather suits the cars from this era.
Yeah, that's Keith Jones in his car. It's an ex-Tonia Adamovich car. And in the background, you've got a little fourth in that pack of cars. Right behind the Austin Healey is a gorgeous little Fiat, not a Fiat, correct yourself, Jones, an Abarth 2000 GT. Michael Gans has not just an amazing collection of cars, but he's got exquisite taste. And I love seeing cars you don't get to see a great deal more. It'll give away horsepower, have lovely handling. I'll tell you what, the car that's impressing me, and the driver is Andreas Rollner. Of course, he's 4th in that lead group of cars. He'll have more grunt than the Lotus 15, but he's really making it stick. When you get to the tighter bits, the Lotus driver will be laughing. Serge Kriknoff will go, I can turn in, I can turn out. Much more weight for the green Ferrari at the back of the field, but back of that lead quartet, but it's got plenty of grunt out of the corners. So again, you get that sort of counterbalance, performance versus handling, which very much has always been the story of racing.
Couple of TVRs in there, couple of Grand Tourer Mark IIIs from the mid-60s. Guy Grant starting the number 53 white car with the red and blue racing stripes. Mark Hales will take over that car. And Mark Ashworth is back again with the Ashworth family outing with his dad Simon. Again in a Mark III, a mostly white car with the blue stripes on that one. Mark only flying in from the Far East on, when was that? Thursday night. No, Thursday during the day rather. Got a bit of practice in on Friday. Doughty competitors they are. You're a TVR man, aren't you?
Yes, static and occasionally moving, but I love them very much. I mean, a Grand Tourer would be such a thing to race, such a short wheelbase. But again, I'm just enjoying this battle at the front between the different way the two Listons with their different body shapes get their power down. There is more grunt naturally from the Chevrolet, more torque, but the horsepower is very, very strong in the Jaguar. But also John Spears, he's one of those strange characters who gets faster as he gets older. Yeah. And, you know, he takes some very good coaching, and he just has an amazing array of cars. And was saying this year, someone said a few weeks ago, you're doing 100 races this year? He went, no, 64. Yeah. It's quite an agenda, and over this meeting he'll have other cars, and he'll have Goodwoods coming up and so forth. Look at that green Ferrari. It's not taking no for an answer. It's picked off the Lotus, moved up to 3rd place. Andreas Rollner, who's, again, got an exquisite stable of cars and is racing in many events here. He's really enjoying this Gentleman Challenge. Little lock-up for the glorious Abarth, or is that worse than a lock-up? I fear it might be worse than a lock-up there.
I can't tell if something was catching or something was leaking.
I think something was leaking. Now, sometimes when things leak onto your rear tyres, it doesn't help the handling, so I'm told.
I can only imagine that is true.
Yeah,
absolutely.
The things people say.
Jaguar drifting with the E-Type through the second part of Pouhon. Bittarini's back up to speed again, the bright white.
Still smoking, still leaking of something. So those behind will know full well that not only will they see it, they'll smell it and possibly taste it.
The Lotus 11 in there as well. That's a 1500cc car from 1956. That's leads its class. That's the E1 category. And a very beautiful gold E-Type moving slowly. And
yeah, I'm trying to remember which one that is, but that's someone whose races run one of the coupe-bodied versions. So that's possibly Laurent Jasper's. It could be. No, his car is silver. Mind you, some people have several cars the same. Right, is it going to be a change for second place? Not quite. Andreas Rollner in the dark green Ferrari. The 275 GTB has to back out, which gives a chance to Serge Krichnoff to fight back in fourth place. But bit by bit, Luc-Pierre Vercat, at the end of this lap, he'll be listed still in second place by, a tiny 0.004 of a second. But amazing, the grunt that the Ferrari has. It seems equal to the Chevrolet grunt from the Lister, the Nobly in second place, car 17. But the big question is who's using their tyres more? And I'd say Andreas Rollner is swinging the tail around on that 275 GTB. And what happens as they fight? Our race leader John Spears pulls clear. He's 1.7's clear, seconds clear on the start-finish line, uninterrupted up through La Source, so he should be able to make a break. However,
yeah, John using that straight six. Beautiful engine, a straight six, perfectly balanced. If you've ever driven one even as a road car, you'll know the 88 there with that lighter blue colour, just the nose dropping down as he brakes, goes down through the gearbox and then turns it in, and then the big Chevy, the big banger in second position. And then those beautiful lights. I mean, it's a little bit of a wiggle there for the third place Ferrari, but my goodness, that is perfectly proportioned as a GT car.
Cars were just simply at their most elegant. You could say some of the cars from the 30s, but that wasn't right across the board. Oh dear, we have the first retirement from the race, which is the glorious little A-Bar. Michael Gans, we're going so well, but we saw it starting to smoke, and Michael would have been aware of that. However, what we do have is the fifth place car, Bram Bontrup, a second listed Jaguar in Costa. There's a replay showing all was not right for that glorious little A-Bar, but look at those lines, absolutely exquisite.
Well, you look at that, and I mean, it was very smart driving actually to bring it in the pits so that he didn't drop any contaminant on. Well,
this is his moment going to the pits. He very nearly clicked the Lotus as was diving up his inside, but at least he got out of the race and into the shade, which would be quite welcome as well.
But you look at the lines of that when you're looking directly alongside it, and you absolutely know what country in the world that came from. Because you look at the Ferrari, you look at that, and I'm not comparing them and saying one's the same as the other, but it has the same lineage, it has the same thought process, almost the same character of design, and it's elegant and it's perfectly proportioned, and it's, I mean, that Ferrari, it's a proper Grand Tourer in every sense of the word. Being raced here, equally at home, throwing some very expensive luggage in the back and driving from the Mediterranean up to the Alps or vice versa.
But when you consider a car like the 275 GTB, you think that's what it would have been used for. But when you see it on a race circuit looking so elegant, it does look as though it's just had a cage put in and the racing rondels put on the door. Oh, a little bit too deep in the bus stop, so he's second, became third, became fourth. Can the Lotus keep it on the track around the outside? And here comes Bram Bontrup in the background. I think there's a gearbox problem.
I was about to say exactly that. The gearbox problem was that it wasn't in one.
Yes, or it was in many at the same time.
Yes.
Right, so Bram Bontrup is closing in the background. He's in the third of the listers. There it is, car number 17, much sleeker. It's like John Spears' car, different colour, but the race leader also in a costume. Both one from 1958, which is Bram Bontrup, the Dutch racer, who seems to get better by the minute when he goes in historic cars. He just can't wait to get his hands on different shapes, and the Ferrari fights back.
Just look behind as well, because Catesby Jones is not that far away in the red Porsche 904 6 Carrera GTS. I often think of the 904s and that era of cars from the mid-1960s as the forgotten Porsches, the mid-engine cars. There were road-going versions of them, but they just don't seem to be talked about. 904 6 remains it is a six-cylinder engine. And they again were beautifully engineered. The styling perhaps not the glory of the Ferrari or anything that came out of Pininfarina. 96th anniversary of Pininfarina yesterday. In fact, or how we love to celebrate those 96th anniversaries, as you mentioned at breakfast this morning. But, you know, the 9046 was still, you know, it was tiny, it was built for purpose, it was Germanic in that point, but still managed to look good. And Catesby Jones and Carlos de Quesada, who share that car, it's the second of the red cars coming down the hill.
Confused for a moment because I was thinking, hold on, that looks like an A-bar. It is, the A-bar's back on track and it's still smoking. Michael Gans is in behind the 5th place car, the fighting back Ferrari in dark green, but it's the second of those red cars, as John pointed out, the exquisite 9046 Carrera. There are an increasing number of those in historic racing. You never hear anybody talking about them. They are not short on praise. The handling is absolutely magnificent. It would give away a bit of grunt in this battle, but the balance over a longer race would certainly come into its own. Serge Kriknoff is now deciding, no, I was 4th, I quite fancy 3rd, maybe I should go off after 2nd, but running a little bit wide there, the worst thing he can do in a Lotus 15. What's he lacking? Dynamic forwards? No, not at all. He's lacking grunt. Put the car sideways, lose momentum, he's got to do it all over again. But when you see the little Lotus come up to the bus stop chicane, he will close in. He's, what, 2-3 car lengths behind, and then he'll be super nimble.
So, Chevy power at, what, 5.3? Chevy? Is it the small block engine?
I think it's slightly smaller than that, but anyhow, it's ample in comparison to 1500cc.
1500cc, effectively a Ford Crossflow under that. Chain Ford. And
again, out of the corner, the handling is with the Lotus, the grunt is with the Chevrolet engine Lister. Up front though, John Spears, at the end of the opening lap he was 1.7 seconds clear, at the end of lap 4 he's 1.7 seconds clear, so no real change, but nobody close enough to challenge him, which means for John that will make it just very comfortable indeed.
And Andreas Rollner has just put his fastest lap of the race in, and therefore fastest lap of the class, in that 4th place dark green Ferrari T75 GTP at a 2 minutes 56 seconds.
Well, that in some ways means something and nothing, but it's, to put it into note, the race leader John Spears has been 0.6 of a second slower on his fastest lap, so the car in 4th is faster than all those ahead. I guess we could have suggested that might have been the case, but we definitely saw, maybe it was just one mistake, that issue coming out of chicane. Maybe he just ended up with a gearbox full of nothing, but he's closing right back in. Little Lotus Elite, super elegant, in the way at the moment, and just trying to keep out of the way at Les Combes, but easier said than done. Car number 22, haven't seen too much of the Curel, another Lotus 15, no, Lotus 11 actually, the 1500cc version. You can have those in 1100cc. Imagine how much horsepower you give away with one of those smaller engine versions.
Sorry, the giggle was for Alexander Kolb in the number 650 Healy 3 litre ahead of Laurent Jasper in the number 73 Jaguar, and Alexander Kolb drifting it through La Source, lighting up the rear tyres and enjoying every moment and millimetre.
But that is the very point, isn't it? Most of the drivers in this field of 30-plus cars know they're not going to win the race. They're here to have fun. They're here to beat their immediate competitors. And if there's a chance to get it a bit sideways, yeah, that's all part of the package.
No power steering. You feel everything through your backside, through your feet. Oh, now that's the other 250, isn't it?
Yeah, the short wheelbase. That's Carsten LeBlanc's car, car number 21, if I'm correct. But
very
again,
good.
Just looks fantastic up close.
Same age as me, that car, and I think that one's aged better.
It's probably had more facelifts, John.
Well,
I'm not scoring you on the facelift front. I'd fire them if I were you.
I'm all original. The patterner is getting better and
going
better.
south.
Yeah, but yes, never been raced or rallied.
Still got more than half an hour to go in this race. What we're seeing is Andreas Rollner back up to 4th place. He's got ahead of he's still ahead of Catesby Jones, but he'll close that gap unless he's gone too hard too soon. But look, the little Lotus Serge Kriknoff is being caught by the green Ferrari. They've got another Lotus Elite in the middle of the track in front of them, but he's looking at his mirrors, the driver, going, please got my inside. And the 2nd place, Luc-Pierre Vercain.
And he's just lost it. Coming through the first part of the bus stop. He's held on to the position, virtue of the Lotus behind him, the Elite, actually holding up his competitors. And there are there were waved yellows there for a moment, and then they were put away. I was wondering if it was contamination flags that was there.
I don't know, but I can tell you one thing. Instead of the lead being a 1.7 seconds, 2.5 seconds were gained by race leader John Spears, who had a nice run into the chicane, out of the chicane in his blue and white striped Mr. Jaguar Costin, car number 88, pulling clear, but Andreas Rollner has picked off Serge Kriknov, the Ferrari, up into third place overall. Now let's see what he can do. And still he has his best lap, which is the best lap of the race. Still quicker than all three cars in front of him, so let's see where he can go.
And half an hour to go. There's time for him to do that. Pit window will open in just under 2 minutes' time. So we'll see who takes the early pit stop.
They both say we're not being belittling. This is a car that is giving away plenty in terms of horsepower. It's the René Bonnet Jet from 1962. Tiny, nimble, and going up a hill, quite tricky. Just short of power, but these are the cars that little companies like René Bonnet built to have success at Le Mans. They wanted to sell them for the road as well, but you could get a trophy if you won your class, and class went down to cars with just the most minuscule engines. This looks like a car you could pick up and carry around the paddock.
Absolutely good. So the index of thermal efficiency was one of those iterations, and that was all about the size of the engine, the average lap time, whether it was a market day at Stockton upon Tees. That played into it. Just waiting to let a few cars through here. I don't think there's a problem with that car having a good... Oh, no, you see, I've said that. Just look at the pressed steel wheels, the three stud wheels. They look like Citroen wheels to me.
Well, nothing untoward from this replay at the moment. Nothing visual happening with the car. Seems to have air in all four tyres. Oh, actually, there is suddenly something visual pouring out of that little vent on the side. So, small engine emitting steam. Well, any engine emitting steam is not a good thing.
It's hot.
Right, these are cars from the 1950s, John, a lot of them. And to see the Jaguar XK about to be lapped, just so elegant. The XK 150 coupe in the race. Oh, dear, they're falling now. We've got another lister. Another lister, and it's one in trouble. That's not Bram Bontrup. That's someone... Jack Sandos. Further down the order, car number 26. He's in the knobbly shaped one with the more protuberant wings. As that lead battle gets going. Still the little René Bonnet is stuck there. Waved yellow. Someone has parked it.
That's the Abarth again.
The Abarth has come back for its second pit stop and hasn't quite completed the manoeuvre. Driver out of the car. Tall figure of Michael Gans.
Pit window is open, but I'm not sure. Can you get... Well, the Abarth's tiny, so you will...
It is tiny, but let's just express the point that the pit entry... is very, very difficult at Spa-Francorchamps, and I've seen many races where drivers have got their car stuck on the twisting pit entrance, and they've decided races, including the Spa 24 Hours, in the last few years.
Catesby Jones has closed up as well. He's now much closer to all of the cars ahead of him, and he was under a second behind Serge Kirchhoff. In fact, Serge has got... Past who?
Andreas Rollner has just lost 2 positions. So I think he's got a recurring gearbox problem.
And he's pitted. And he has pitted.
He's pitted as well. But he did, okay, so we can scratch that last comment. He's just chosen to come in. Maybe that was a tricky time. He probably lost a bit of time getting past Michael Gans' stricken Abarth on pit entry. Driver on our screens at the moment, car number 88.
Full course yellow. Oh, now that's a really, really fortunate thing then for the
cars that are pitted.
Ferrari. Yes.
Well, we know it's got the pace.
Yes.
It was catching up again, but sometimes you get Christmases at Christmas, sometimes you get very big presents in the middle of the year. And that looks like that could be one of those very things. So there's Andreas Rollner out of number 188, and he's not listed as having a teammate, so maybe... Oh, no, there is a teammate on board. Oh, I do love these late editions. I have to update my screen, or I'll work that out later. But
I'll see who it says when he comes out.
Yeah.
So we have the recovery vehicles moving around the circuit, and that is why we've gone to a full course yellow. Full course yellow, not a safety car. So in theory, everybody slows down to 80k. No overtaking. It should preserve the gaps when we go back green. There'll be a little bit of give and take. The drivers, these are not sophisticated cars. So the drivers will have to be working out their speed. Speedometers on cars of this age were not necessarily the most accurate. So the beautiful Campagnolo cast alloys on that little Abarth, as everybody behind that has come in. And now this is going to be a massive disadvantage if it doesn't go on too long for the leaders out front. So Jean Spears, Luc Pierre-Vercin, Catesby Jones, Serge Kriknoff, excuse me, and Volker Hichat. They are all the leaders who were past the pits when the full course yellow came out.
The timing of something like that might turn your race when you were racing for honours to, well, I'm racing to enjoy myself now, because it can really swing the pendulum. Just a short moment ago, you saw this exquisite Italian open-top car in your screens, and John and I have been talking about how you can tell a nation of a car, of the designer, but it's an Aston Martin. 9 times out of 10 you go, well, that's obviously an Italian car, but Bertoni, the DB4 2.4 Bertoni, competition spider, height stam, absolutely loves racing it. He was out of the car, didn't look in a great rush to get back in, but maybe he just wanted to stretch his legs, and we'll see if that gets back in. That gives away so much performance to the others, but it's just lovely to see something so beautiful.
And Aston Martin have a great heritage through its many iterations and ownership, as out comes the Ferrari, still with its road registration, 275 being part of it, which is rather good. And I'll tell you who that is when it gets back up to speed. Lars Rollner.
Lars Rollner, yeah. So Andrews has handed over to Lars, and it's on Danish number plates, they being a pair of Danish drivers.
The Aston had a number of styling houses down through the years. Zagato, of course, most famously, I would suspect, if you ask someone with a gun at their head, they'd say Zagato before they'd say Bertone, probably.
I'm going to upset lots of people now.
Right.
People would, of course, think of Zagato, but in terms of beauty, I'd suggest Bertoni's offerings were the greater, because I
noticed I did not venture down that
I just took a run up and threw myself in. The DB4 GT, the Zagato, effective, fairly good, attractive, but later models, not for me. But that's me. It should be about taste, that's the beauty, but certainly some of the Italian design houses who handled Aston Martin did exquisite jobs.
And much more recently, Aston Martin went back to Zagato for a trio of cars, which was a coupe, a Spider, and a Touring, which you, a bit like a Spark model set, you had to buy all three, which was rather splendid. I particularly like the Touring. Well, which wasn't made by Touring. That was another Zagato. That was another styling house.
But you know, the days of design houses were enormous in the 50s and 60s, and in the last 20 years they've been trickling back in, and I like seeing the different body shapes, and some of the clients pay very handsomely for them. Right, some of the cars still coming to the pit lane, including Serge Kriknoff.
These are the guys who missed out the first time round. Yeah.
And, of course, our race leader, John Spears.
And we're back to green.
Back to green, blue and white, car number 88, still has to have the standard pit stop length.
So the problem for all of these guys is they came into the pit lane just as we were going green. I think only maybe one or two of them got in just as we were going green. But that means that their pit stops, their timed pit stops, are going to be when everyone else is up to speed. And this is a massive free kick for the guys who got in the first time around, if you will. Peter Vogler in the number 60 904 Carrera GT might be a beneficiary here.
Okay, I'll throw another thing into the mix. The number 88 race-leading, John Spears-driven, start again, Jones. Lister Jaguar Costin has now got Nigel Greensall on board. Look for the sort of semi-Ronnie Peterson look-alike helmet, blue with the yellow flag. So he's got a much bigger challenge than normal. He puts on a phenomenal recovery drive, but he's going to have to work so much harder this afternoon. For Catesby Jones, he normally shares with Carlos de Quesada in that red 904 Carrera. 9046 Carrera. He's going to go solo, so he's got to do the second part of the race. And for everyone else, they're up to full racing speed.
I'm afraid that the number 43 Stephen Ward Fraser Nash Le Mans replica, which is a car that looks like it comes from a different era, a bit like the Allard J2 actually, came in the wrong pit lane entry, probably because it was blocked by an Abarth at the time, and that is going to be a time penalty there.
Well, another person's just done the self-same thing, coming out of La Source, and well, they're all diving in there. Maybe that is the right one. Was that the replay? We just had two cars ducking in.
That must have been.
That was the replay. Okay.
Oh no, I don't think it.
No, it's not a replay. So 16 in the background looks so coming to serve the penalty was the Fraser Nash Le Mans rep. Because that was the second car in. But car 60, that's Peter Fogerle. I thought owed us a pit stop. So yeah, that sort of makes sense.
You're right. So...
And here's the Allard. The Allard was the second car in, car number 44. Again, Cycle Wings, Michel Grosvilliers. This car from 1951. So you have got quite an age span in this field through to cars in the early 60s. 1965, I think we go to up to in this race. But that's a 14-year span. You think about the progress of automobiles in the 50s. So huge, huge difference.
I'm trying to work out. So Lars Rollner in the Ferrari 275 GTB is either leading or second at the minute. I think he might be second.
He's second to Bram Bontrapp, Abram Bontrapp, the Dutch racer. Remember, he was the one catching that lead group little by little in the second of the list of Jaguar Costins.
Yes, that's right. So he got in that first group that got in. Yes, absolutely. Luc-Pierre Verquin is out again in the list of Nobly number 17. Dr. Afshin Fatemi in his 9046.
Well, he's just gone through the shot. Silver 904.6 with a red nose. Bjorn Ebsen in his Bizzarini a little bit further back. That was the car started by Volker Hickert. Remember on the opening lap, it ran wide, that white Bizzarini. But behind them, in about 6th or 7th position, is this car. Nigel Greensill on board, inveterate winner with John Spears, and trying to make up the time he lost. John Spears did a fantastic job to hand him the car with a lead, but not getting in just before the full course yellow really hurt them. Now the chase is on.
So he has dropped down to 9th position.
Yeah, he's just behind Kevin Jones, who's just got on the tail of the 250 GT short wheelbase, and Serge Kriknoff just in front of them.
And is 20, let's call it 22 seconds behind the leader with 18 minutes to go. DJ
doable.
Yes, I think so. DJ is back in the pit lane, got a tow in from a Toyota. I mean, how will it live with itself from there?
Well, these things happen. You just have to draw a blank over it. Right, so 9th has become 8th. Nigel Greensill has picked off the dark red Ferrari we're looking at now. That fabulous 250 GT short wheelbase. Next target is the little Lotus in its sort of a turquoise livery. It's Serge Kriknoff. Remember, he was staying with that lead quartet, got as high as 3rd, so he's got pace, but he doesn't have the grunt, so Nigel will pick him off somewhere as soon as possible. No, not yet there, because again, what's the problem for him? He's got really a car that handles beautifully, can brake way later than the Lister Jaguar, but look, it's about flow, and again, a lovely clean line there from Nigel Greensill, who hops from country to country, continent to continent, day to day, testing, instructing, and racing historic cars, so he will have the feel. He will have it. He's chaired this car with John Spears for quite a while now, so he's fully conversant with it. But actually, even if he isn't, he's got that feel for how historic cars should handle, and he really, really makes them work. There are a handful of drivers in the paddock here who just have that sort of métier, and he's very much one of them.
It looks like Carlos de Quesada did not get into...
No, he wasn't slated. He was an original entry, and it became all Catesby.
Right.
They shared cars a lot. Carlos de Quesada, the man behind Allegra Motorsports in the States, but he's doing a lot of commuting to Europe, but sometimes your business enterprises just don't allow it.
Now there's the obvious place for the pass with the bigger engine car.
Next one about to happen. The white Bizzarini on the right-hand side of our screen is holding down 6th position, but Nigel Greensill is in 7th,
Hey.
and it's Bizzarini braking a little bit late into Les Combes.
That is a great comeback from the Bizzarini. That was the car on the first lap that was actually in the pit lane exit, trying to stay out the way, coming to the top of Radion. With, again, looks like it had a box of neutrals. I couldn't decide whether it just joined the race from the pit lane.
No, just got loose and went out there.
Absolutely.
Yeah, but
lost a huge amount of real estate.
He was occasionally in the background of the shot, so I knew he was coming back. But again, he timed the pit stop right, while the top, was it 4 or 5 cars, did not. Andreas Rollner did, and he's handed over to Lars Rollner in that 275 GTB Ferrari, and that's running in 3rd. Luc-Pierre Verquin, who was 2nd, is still 2nd, because he also pitted at the correct time. And Bram Bontrapp leading the race by 1.7 seconds, but fastest driver on the track. You look at him now, Nigel Greensill in the Lister Jaguar Costin. He'll be in the background of the shot. His next target is going to be... Well, he's already passed the white Bizzarini. His next target is
It's the red
Catesby
Porsche.
Jones, the red Porsche in 5th place overall. And then Dr. Afshin Fatemi in the other 9046 Carrera. That's the silver one with the red nose, just coming down on the tail of the green Ferrari of Lars Rollner. So it's all closing up rather nicely at the front of the field. Still a quarter of an hour to go.
There's time. There's definitely time for Nigel Greensoll to do this. There's a slight complicating factor is the traffic at the moment. So he's got to make good decisions. Look, two Porsches seem to me to be actually holding on pretty well to that Ferrari. Maybe even closing slightly.
I think they both got a bit of a foot up during the pit stops. It certainly seemed to help them, but the pace at the moment, just remember a lap ago Nigel Greensoll was 22 seconds down the race leader. He's taken 10 seconds out of that. Yeah,
Dr. Afshin Fatemi is indeed closing on Lars, coming out of the final corner now. Just build cars like that, that look like that now. Let's go down to the pit lane and we can have a word with the driver who vacated that number 88.
Second part of the race of this Gentleman Challenge. The leader of the first pass was this guy, John Spears, with the Lister Costin. John, it was a nice first part of the race for you.
Yes, yeah, it was. I was being challenged pretty hard by the Lister Chevrolet. He came past me on the Kemmel Straight a couple of times. You know, there's a lot of power, but he has to brake a bit sooner. So yeah, I held the lead throughout, but we have an extra 15-second pit stop due to the burden of glory because we won at Barcelona. So I think we're P6 right now, and you know, it's touch and go. I think if Nigel can get back on the podium.
Just tell us about the driving such a Lister Costin on such a track as Spa.
Well, you know, Spa's the best track in the world, and my Lister Costin handles beautifully, so it's just a total joy around here. This afternoon the track is hot, as you know, so it's quite slippy, but you know, this car likes sliding, so it's just all good.
This guy is happy, and it's up to Nigel Greensoll to try to win this race.
Well, good to hear from John Spears. He always very, very clear in what he says, and I love the way he just used the phrase burden of glory. Success penalty you could call, but burden seems apt when you've worked hard and your advantage is taken away. But Nigel Greensoll is closing the gap. It's now he's found another 2 seconds since the start of that interview, cutting down on the race lead. 12.5 minutes remain.
I'm keeping an eye on the temperatures. It's still 27 Celsius in the air, but there are parts of the track, Bruce, that are coming in the shade, and I suggest our temperature sensor may be at one of those because there's not really any cloud to cut down on the track temperature, but all of a sudden it's dropped to 43 Celsius. Remember, it was up at 46 when we started talking about it. We've got, oh my goodness, we've got track limits, third infringement.
For who?
The number 46,
okay,
which is the Bizzarini.
Well, he probably got one of those by accident going off. Lead battle with us, and it's getting closer and closer. Got down to a quarter of a second, a little bit of a slide from the chasing Lister Nobly with the Chevrolet engine. It's got more grunt in a straight line, as we heard from the experience of John Spears, because he's got the Jaguar model. That's fighting way back. Another Jaguar model leading the race, but Bram Bontrup, well, he's really working hard, but what he has is what he has to have. He's very, very smooth through the corners, keeping the momentum going, whereas you can be more aggressive in a Lister Nobly Chevrolet. You've got more grunt to get you out of trouble and to blast you out when you're sideways, but for our race leader, got to keep it smooth. In the background of the shot, 5 cars in the picture, and the one that was 5th is Nigel Greensoll. He's moved ahead of Afshin Fatemi. He's now got to pick off Catesby Jones. Gap to race leader, 7 seconds. So he's found 15 seconds since he's come out from his pit stop. And time aplenty.
And 2 seconds quicker than the leader's fastest lap last time around, and 4 seconds faster than the leader's last lap. So that tells you, no more than that, 5 seconds quicker. Yeah, you're right. So Bram Bontrup is being closed in on. He has cars between him. But still 11 minutes nearly to the checkered flag. The So there's still racing to be done here.
Well, just 2 cars in one go. Catesby Jones has been passed, Lars Rolls has been passed. So Nigel Greensall, the number 88, Mr. Jaguar Costin, now up into 3rd place. 6 seconds down on the race leader. The writing is on the wall, fully within his remit. There was nothing that Lars Rollner could do, because not only in the first part of the race in his Ferrari 275 GTB could he keep up with the race-leading number 88, Lister Jagrin, but now it's in the hand of Nigel Greensall, and it's a different proposition entirely. Only by small margins, but he is taking large margins out of the race leader, Bram Bontrop.
I have some bad news for you. The TVR Grand Tourer 1965 Mark III and Mark Ashworth, and the Ashworth Racing Team, the number 87 car, is in the pits and has been for a little while.
Well, one's still going, which is the car started by Guy Grant. Supposed to be showing that with Mark Hale, still showing Guy as driver on board, but you never always know that the drivers have flipped the switch properly. Race leader, still Lister Jaguar Costin. 3rd car in the race, looking at it now, 88. Also Lister Jaguar Costin. That's Nigel Greensall giving chase. Luc-Pierre Vercat is between them in the Chevrolet engined knobbly version. You can see the higher wings on that one, the less aerodynamic front end. In between is the other Grand Tourer, little TVR, that's the Guy Grant car. So we're missing one from the Ashworth father and son combo, but the story of the race right now is the fight back. Up into 3rd place, Nigel Greensall, car number 88. There it is.
Beautifully flat drifted, 4-wheel drifted through the right-hander at the bottom of the hill. Comes past the Grand Tourer now. The red and white, the white and blue rather, stripes on that car. And he's got the leaders in sight now with barely a handful of seconds. I wondered if time wasn't on his side. You were confident, and you were right to be so, Bruce, because he is absolutely eating up the circuit at the moment, feeling for the grip with the front wheels, feeling for the grip with his backside and his right foot, getting all of that power down onto the road. And there's a good battle for the best of the GT cars as well, with the dark green, that beautiful dark green Ferrari, and the Porsche in behind it is Catesby Jones, and they're all doing their fastest laps of the race as they come through.
Yeah, Nigel Greensall, new fastest lap outright. 1st and 2nd, well, they just swapped around because Luc-Pierre Vercat in the knobbly has gone ahead of Bram Bontrop. In the background of the shot is Nigel Greensall catching the pair of them. And I don't know if it was a mistake from Bram Bontrop up at the top of the hill, but he's now down in 2nd place. And he's being chased by the sister car, if you will, the second of the smoother-bodied Lister Costins, Jaguar Power. But the momentum up the hill seems to be coming into the hands of Nigel Greensall. 3rd has become 2nd. Now for race leader Luc-Pierre Vercat. He saw the tail end of this number 88 Lister pulling away in the first half of the race when John Spears was on board, but after, what was it, the 15 seconds extra to standstill in the pit stop, Nigel Greensall has fought back. And here's the move on the outside. It wasn't up at last source, but an better exit from that hairpin at the top of the course. And Luc-Pierre Vercat in the Lister knobbly car number 17 takes the lead of the race. That leaves the more sleek-bodied Costins in behind, also from the Lister company in Cambridge, but these with Jaguar engines. But let's head down for the very latest with Vincent François, and he's going to bring us probably the news of a faller.
That's the end of the race for the Lotus number 16, Serge Quickneuf. On va le faire en français. Serge, un petit problème un peu embêtant sur un circuit comme ça, Francorchamps.
Ouais, un petit peu embêtant. Ouais, les freins, bon, c'est comme je disais, c'est embêtant un peu partout. Mais voilà, bon, c'est des choses qui arrivent. C'est une voiture qui est nouvelle, qu'on découvre. Donc c'est la mise au point, ça prend une année ou deux. Donc là déjà, elle tourne. Avant, elle ne tournait pas. Et puis voilà, maintenant on va essayer de trouver pourquoi il y a ces problèmes de frein. Et puis voilà, mais bon, je me suis déjà fait bien plaisir. Ça c'est pas arrivé au premier tour.
Effectivement, on sait que ces Lotus, c'est pas les voitures les plus puissantes, mais elles ont une tenue de cap, bien évidemment. Colin Chapman voulait qu'elles soient comme ça. C'est un plaisir ici.
Oui, alors, il y a la Lotus 11 et la Lotus 15. J'ai la chance de conduire les deux, mais je préfère ma Lotus 11 quand même. Ça, par contre, pour Spa, la Lotus 15 est quand même mieux. Elle est plus puissante, il y a 60 chevaux de plus. Donc c'est une voiture qui avance plus. Par contre, les freins chauffent plus apparemment. donc voilà, mais j'ai fait la pole ce matin, le week-end est parfait. Non, demain ça ira mieux, je pense qu'ils vont trouver les mécanos. Et puis demain on va se faire plaisir encore une fois, quoi.
After the pole position, brakes problems and unfortunately a retirement for the Lotus 15, car number 16.
And now we have a red flag, Bruce. The race is over with call it 6 minutes to go.
What is it because we've got? Is it because that car, the little Lotus Elite, is sitting on the apex of the corner? I tell you what, though, Nigel Greensall did not get through to the lead of the race. He just come over the start-finish line as the red flags are waved around the circuit. Half a second down, but you've got wound it back a little bit. It's gone to 1.7 seconds, but. So the Lister Nobly of Luc-Pierre Verquin, who ran second pretty much throughout, being challenged by the Lister Jaguar Costins. The fight back didn't quite come to fruition for Nigel Greensall, building on the work of John Spears, and Bram Bontrapp worked his way up the order to third place overall. Lars Rollner, well, he deserves the accolade in the GT class, fourth overall, top in his class, and he'd put a fantastic drive in. But also the driver we just heard of from there, Serge Kriknoff in his little Lotus 15, did such a good job in the first part of the race.
It was the Ivan Dens Lesnar and Marcel Peter Lotus Elite, the sort of lilac-coloured car.
Yes, I think we call that lilac.
That I'm pretty certain has caused the issue. That's where all the yellows were. So a slightly truncated race and Nigel falling short. We'll go back to the lap results, the positions at the end of the last full lap that was green. So I think we can say without fear of contradiction and with some confidence that Luc-Pierre Verquin in the number 17 Lister Nobly will be the winner. It will be about where they go back to for the last full green flag lap as to whether Nigel or Bram is second.
I have a feeling they've already managed to do the maths on that.
I think you're right, actually.
Because he passed Bram Bontrapp and was heading off after Luc-Pierre Verquin as they ran up the hill, so I'm sure that is something that's fair. But Luc-Pierre Verquin, really good job for him, but, you know, what a fight. He had the grunt in the Lister Nobly with the Chevrolet Power against the Jaguar Costins bodied car. But good job, great race, full of really enterprising driving. A chase, the order shuffled a little bit by those who managed to get into the pits and be gifted as it went to full course yellow for everyone else who was out on the track and then having to lap slowly. But you make your own fortune. But people up and down the order would have enjoyed that race. It would have been hot work, that definitely is for sure. And let's go down and join Vincent, who is with our race winner, and he goes by the name of Luc-Pierre Verquin.
With the winner of this race, number one for the Gentleman Challenge, Luc-Pierre Verquin, on this wonderful Lister Nobly Jaguar. We'll do it in French, of course. Luc-Pierre, eh bien, je pense que c'est un dernier tour qui a beaucoup de valeur pour vous, ça.
Ouais, en effet, parce que je pense qu'un tour avant, j'étais troisième. Et j'ai pu doubler Bontrapp dans la ligne droite. Enfin non, j'étais second, je crois, j'étais second. Et puis j'ai vu arriver un bon client derrière. Voilà, Greensall. Et bon, donc je pense que s'il y avait quelques tours de plus, faut être honnête, il allait me passer, quoi. Mais bon, il
y a eu un drapeau rouge, Luc-Pierre. Ça fait totalement vos affaires.
C'est la course. Parfois, on a le droit d'avoir un peu de chance. Hein. Ça n'a pas toujours été le cas, donc tant mieux. Ravi.
Sometimes it's time to be lucky. That's the case of Luc-Pierre Verquin, winner of race number one.
Thank you very much. Yes, he explained that very, very nicely. We worked hard all race, had a good battle with Bram Bontrapp, and got the job done. But the cavalry was coming. Didn't quite get there before the red flags came out. So Nigel Greensall, car number 88, will have to settle for second place. But it was nip and tuck. And that's the beauty of fields with lots of different sorts of cars. They did their performance in different ways. We saw the little Lotus of Serge Kriknoff mixing it with cars with so much more horsepower. And it all adds to the fun, but it makes the drivers work so much harder when they have to maximise on where their car is at its very best. And in a straight line, certainly the Chevrolet grunt of our race winner, Luc-Pierre Verquin, was very much a trump card. He got it to work. Nigel Greensall, no doubt, will be congratulating him. Great sportsmanship up and down the paddock here. But with just under 5 minutes to go in the race, it was decided with the car in a dangerous position. We're fairly sure it was the Lotus Elite that was stranded at the bus stop chicane just off the racing line that the flag was thrown a little bit early, but, you know, smiles all round, and thoroughly enjoyed that race. And again, when you get a fight back, there's something to look at, something to see coming up the order. Good to see there's Nigel Greensall. He does indeed congratulate our race winner. But let's go down and hear Vincent is with Nigel Greensall, car number 88.
There was a red flag at the end of the race, and unfortunately, it was no time enough for Nigel Greensall to win the race. Nigel, how was it?
It was just fantastic. It was a great race to watch. The start with John taking the opening stint and having such a great battle with like 5 cars that were like all close together dicing. And then obviously we had the full course yellow, so we lost a little bit in the pit stop with that, but that was really exciting for me then, because then it's the opportunity of like, right, what can I achieve in the remaining part of the race? I just loved every minute of it.
Pierre told us one more lap and was second, and Nigel won the race.
You never know, but yeah, they deserve to win the race. They drove very well. So for us, it's just brilliant to be here, and what a magnificent circuit, gorgeous sunshine and great cars.
John, it's a very good way to start the weekend.
Absolutely, cars intact, and maybe tomorrow we'll be a little luckier, but you know, we're certainly ready to start the race again. And mind you, we've got another race in an hour and a half's time anyway.
Silver medal for this car number 88, this latest casting.
Yeah, that was good fun. Thank you, Vincent. And just a year or so separating the two listers that were out there, slightly different treatment to the front end of the car, but the blue car, a very unusual colour that. I really like that. It really suits the swoopy lines of the Lister.
Yeah, and in a period where lots of cars were painted just one colour, blue with the white stripes, it does make it stand out. So now we move from racing to qualifying for the next session, and this is for the Classic Endurance Racing 2, and we're going to go away and leave you after the highlights, which we'll look back on for the Gentleman Challenge, but we'll be back for racing later this evening.
this year, a new chapter begins. Peter Otto redefines the classic. New name, a new season for a new story. The new season starts now.